All right, lads. This is the situation. 8 goals difference. Okay? That's what it is. The time now is not to panic. The time now is to try and edge back. All right? First couple of goals, that's our target. Slowly edge back. Don't give up faith. Don't give up the ghost. They think they've already won this game of footy. All right? Now, if they front a side that is defeated, then they will. If they front a side that's got commitment, passion, and pride, which you have, they're going to get a rude shock in the first 5 or 10 minutes. But you've got to put everything on the line in this time. Must. Okay? Nothing stupid. Head over the ball and get the footy. Okay? You need to be first to the ball. If by any chance you're second, let's tackle and tackle like you mean it. Okay? But let's get the ball first. The only way they're going to win a game is if we're defeated from now. That's the only way they're going to win a game. If at 3/4 time we get in here, into the huddle, and we're only 3 or 4 goals down, that's an achievement. Then we set up the next target. But for this target, for this quarter, for this 5 or so minutes to start the game, you must go. We discussed the moment. And I don't think anybody's taken it yet. Don't hold back, boys. It's not next week. It's not next week. I'm very proud of where we've got to, but as I said to you beforehand, your best will be good enough, and I'm not seeing your best today. So grab it out of your hearts and play this quarter like it's your last quarter, and see if we can't set up an opportunity in the third quarter, at the end of the third quarter. Right? Do not go out there with a defeatist attitude. That's not how we play footy. That's not what we want today. What we want today is a full-on commitment. Forget about the first half. We can't change that. We're in the situation we are, big deal. Let's rise to another challenge. We thrashed Savs in half a game of footy. Thrashed them. We demoralised Aquinas. They've been lucky because they haven't popped our best. Let's give it to them in this quarter. Come on.
So, Harry, 10 years have gone by. How does it feel? Does it feel like 10 years to you?
Oh, time passes quickly as we get older too, Michael. So, well, I don't know whether it feels like 10 years, but obviously it has been.
Do you still keep in contact with some of the players, or most of them, would you say?
Yeah, fortunately there's quite a number of them that are still at the club. So,
all right, well, that's
fantastic.
Were those players, were they in the juniors as well? Would you say?
Quite a number of that team had come through the juniors, so I would say at least 2/3 of them.
I'll come back to this question later. Did you think that during the year you would get close to a flag? Did you say? How was your form that year?
Well, halfway through the year, I think we were 2-7, Michael. So there was obviously a bit of work still to be done.
2-7.
2-7 at halfway. We had a bye in the second half of the year, but I think we won 6 out of the other 8 games that got us into the 4 by percentage.
Now, the original documentary, I was following the seniors and reserves and thinking they were going to win the grand final, etc. But
yeah, we all hoped that.
They didn't end up winning it, so I had to follow you. And thanks to you, I asked you, I remember, can I follow the 19s? You didn't give me any issues with that. And I remember, I think it was he played. Do you want to just go through the finals campaign?
Sure.
Who did you play? I think it was Old Zavs first, and then...
That's correct. So we played Old Zavs down at Parade College as a first semi-final. Zavs had beaten us through the year, and the first time quite convincingly. But we were up for the day. It was quite a warm day from memory.
Yeah, I remember,
So I think we got off to a bit of a flyer. Great lead at half-time. They came back at us, but the job was done pretty early.
That was a good day. And then the second, I think it was the semi-final, you played Aquinas, is that correct?
We did. So I stayed and watched the second semi, and Fitzroy had just beaten Aquinas. It was interesting because I listened to the huddle after the game, and the Aquinas players were more content to worry about playing Fitzroy again off in the grand final than actually worrying about playing us. So that sort of gave me a bit of heart to think they didn't consider we were a chance.
Yeah.
So yes, we then went to Preston, Kramer Street, to play the preliminary final. Again, it was a reasonably warm day that day too, but I know the boys are well and truly up by then, and that was quite an easy victory in the finish.
That was a pretty straightforward victory. Look, Ari, going into the finals, a few players had to miss out, giving it such a memorable grand final. I mean, I think a lot of the focus is on the grand final, obviously, because it was such a memorable story. But the finals campaign was excellent. I mean, like you just said with the Old Sabs and the Aquinas game, they were memorable games, but did players that miss out, did they have to miss out on the whole campaign, or was there anyone that actually missed out on just the grand final? And they were part of the celebrations, but I mean, what can you do? There's always going to be players that miss out, yeah?
There were a few that actually didn't play in any of the finals that year. Unfortunate, but to get yourself into a final, you've got to play a certain number of players, and we had actually played 30 odd that year. So playing 30 players, you're actually going to have quite a number that miss out. Yeah. But we had players that missed out because of injury. We had other players who missed out because you just can't fit them all into 22.
Yeah. I remember in the documentary you said that there was a young lad who called you and said, look, I'd rather other players go before me because, you know, he was injured, I think. And you didn't mention the name, you don't have to now, but just that kind of like Bulleen attitude, you know, to show that, to actually like say, I can't play, let someone else through. Was that like a proud moment for you as a coach?
I think it certainly instills a bit of football camaraderie in a big team, because it wasn't necessarily about the individuals, and we always said we're going to take the fittest side we could into a finals campaign. That young fellow, he didn't play many games. He probably only played 7 through coming late and also getting injured. But he was certainly ready to play the finals campaign, but didn't want one of the regulars to miss out.
You told me at training before the grand final, and we have it on video, that you would win on Saturday. Were you confident that you definitely would win? I mean, obviously as a coach you have to say we're going to win, but I remember it's on film, you just said we will win on Saturday.
Look, Fitzroy are a very worthy opponent. They haven't finished on the top because they're not a good side, and they've beaten us quite convincingly both games. But it is a grand final, and we will win on Sunday.
Well, you heard it first here. A year as well.
Yeah, no, Fitzroy was standout side and worthy grand finalists.
Yeah.
In fact, the 2 times we played them throughout the year, they beat us quite comprehensively.
Wow.
So, look, my belief is that if you're there, you're an even chance, and if you don't have self-belief as either a coach or a player, you're not going to progress anyway. So we were always saying that our best would be good enough, and but we had to perform at our best, and you know, going into the grand final, that's what you would hope happens.
Of course. Look, the speech you gave, look, there wasn't many people in there. There was a lot of people in that room, but I was lucky to be up close with you. I remember you sat down on the ground, and as a teacher now, and as like I've been coaching a few like junior sides, you know, secondary school. There's that whole thing about you getting down on that level. Is that what it's all about? Sitting down and speaking to them as equals? Because you see coaches standing up, directing things, kind of like if you see like in the AFL, or even like other coaches that sit there and yell and scream. But you had a different approach of actually getting down to their level. They were all hunched over. They weren't really. There was a bit of, you know, come on Bulleen, so we can do this, but there was a bit of negativity going around, 8 goals down, and you delivered that speech which was just about pushing on goal after goal. But if you see the footage of it, did you think that, like, I mean, by looking at their faces, did you think that something special could happen?
I felt at the time, and just observing the body language, that there were quite a few that were despondent. So when you position yourself that way, you had to try and think of something that would gather their thought process differently. I could have walked around the room, but I don't believe I would have had the players themselves, attention at the time. There were about 3 or 4 of the boys trying to G them up by saying, you know, think about the blokes that missed out, and that's what it was all about as well. But to sit on the ground to me was just my way of saying we're in this together and let's group, and we spoke about taking the moment when you had the chance. And
that's my next question was, you said about discussing the moment and that no one had taken it yet.
We discussed the moment. I don't think anybody's taken it yet. Don't hold back, boys. It's not next week.
I remember on the day I go, what does that mean? What does that actually mean?
I guess throughout the year we discussed about there are opportunities during a game when you have to seize a moment. And so that opportunity might be that you've got to smother a ball, or that opportunity might be that you've got to put your body on the line for something, or that opportunity might mean that you've got to take the mark and go back and kick the goal. So regardless of your role in the team or your skill level or what have you, the moment was what you needed to do to actually do your part for the team. And at half-time, I didn't believe anybody had seized their moment.
Yeah, I mean, that was some speech, and we'll come back to that. But that quarter passed, and we all watched in the third quarter. Like, I think we got a couple of goals, but then the deficit ended up going higher to like 66 points, 3/4 time. Now, at this point, filming, people were like, well, people started to leave, which is not good. I mean, I don't think it was Bulleen spectators, just fans in general. But going to the 3/4 time huddle, 11 goals down, I remember some people leaving the ground. Myself, I kept rolling. But your 3/4 time speech, I mean, look, the whole day, the documentary, it's got many highlights. I personally like the half-time speech, but the 3/4 time one, I mean, you were 11 goals down, and again, you just had this whole positive view on things. Do you want to just explain what was going through your mind? 11 goals down, the towel didn't come through, you didn't want to throw in the towel, obviously, but how did it feel just being 11 goals down 3/4 time?
I actually thought that we played pretty well in the third quarter. In fact, when I observed our body language coming back to the huddle, it wasn't the same body language that I saw at half time. It was actually a little more positive, even though the score difference was larger. And so as I walked into the huddle, it was sort of a little bit daunting to think what you were going to say, and you have to make it as real as possible. But I was watching the Fitzroy players dragging themselves to the huddle, and remembered thinking that they looked a bit tired to me. But I had to try and keep the boys positive. But what I had to also tell them was that regardless of the score, a lot of people had come to watch them play their best footy, and they hadn't. And even though their 3/4 time, or their third quarter was reasonably good, I still didn't think they'd played their best footy. So what positive do you take out of being 11 goals down? You take the positive that, one, you're there. People didn't initially expect us to even get there. I was pretty proud of the fact that they stuck together and did get there. I was very proud of some of the guys' sacrifices that they made to allow their teammates to get there, because we had one of our players, Cam Azer, pulled out the night before the grand final to tell me he wasn't 100%. Now, you ask, these are young men that are making a decision not to play in a finals series, and one made a decision not to play in a grand final. You have no guarantees that that's going to happen again. So And then just the fact that they stuck together, they carried themselves pretty well. If you watched the game, there was no malice or spite in the game. They're quite disciplined crew. And I just told them, regardless of what happens, I was very proud of them. And so, and still am for that matter. But, I just wanted them to finish off a season that they had done really well together and just ask them to do their best.
Yeah. The last quarter, you wanted them to push on. Did it ever come across your mind that, look, basically just get some scores on the board? Did you think the impossible could happen? Like 11 goals, did you think that could possibly happen?
Oh, look, if you're realistic, you probably think that it's out of most people's reach. Everything's got to go well for you. But let's face it, we had scored 3 or 4 goals within about 6 minutes.
Yeah.
For every goal you kick, you add time on. So the quarter goes longer for every goal you kick, about 40 seconds for every goal, actually.
True.
So by that stage, it was just interesting to watch Fitzroy's body language, because I started to see players drop back into our forward line, for example, and they were still 8 goals up, 7 goals up. So I didn't think, other than that we were starting to get things together and play okay, and I was happy about the fact that we were playing on the game.
Now, there was a lot of goals in that, obviously, the last quarter. What was the turning point? I mean, in my view, was it Rob Illingworth's huge goal from the centre bounce? I remember, I think he kicked 3 in a row, and then he came out and grabbed it from the centre and then booted it from about 50 out. This huge torpedo.
Yeah, I reckon it was longer than that, actually.
Oh, probably longer, yeah. That was a huge kick. Was that the turning point in that quarter, or was it the whole just... Like, what got the boys, I mean, they kicked the first few goals, what got them to the point where they're like, okay, we've got a sniff now? And what did you do as a coach on the sidelines there? Because I wasn't anywhere near you, I was behind the goals.
I guess once you get momentum, it's pretty hard to stop. Momentum gathers confidence in the team that has the momentum. It also instills a bit of panic in the team that doesn't have it. So I guess once it got to within 5 goals, and once we knew there was a long time to go yet, when they pushed the opposition pushed the ball back into defence, I then decided that I'd move our players who had the longest kick in the team into the middle of the ground. So Rob, Michael were moved into the centre of the ground, and I put the blokes who I thought would be able to mark the ball on the last line of our forward line. So Dan Tonelli, Peter Voglis.
Yeah, and that worked out well.
It started to actually play, and yes, that goal from Rob that sailed through post high from about 60, 65 metres out was probably one that lifted the team another peg.
What did you direct the defenders to do in that quarter? Because a lot of people think about the goals, but obviously, a lot of people remember all the goals that happened, but the defenders in that quarter, I mean, I remember it going down to Fitzroy's defence. I don't think they even score anything in that last quarter.
Yeah, they did score a point.
They scored a point.
Yeah.
Okay.
They did score a point. Their captain ran into, got clear and ran forward, and I think he had a shot from about 30 metres that went through for a point. I would say normally he probably kicks it. He's a very good player. But I suppose the instruction to the defence was more about holding their position. And also, when they did get it, to try and move it into our forward line as quickly as possible. But I didn't want everybody running forward, because you just congest the forward line and probably stifle the chance of scoring more freely.
And there was footage of the Fitzroy Reds players cramping as well in the background. So I think about halfway through that quarter, there was a few a few of their players going off, they were cramping as well. So did you see any of that?
Yeah, well, as I said, at three-quarter time,
So that makes sense now.
sort of noticed that they were looking a bit tired, but so they should have played a bloody darn good three quarters.
When Peter Voglis got that free kick in the goal square, well, when you got within like 5 points, what were you thinking to put you in front of the grand final after being that far down? What were your emotions like on the sideline? Because again, I didn't get any footage of you, but were you containing yourself?
I guess when Pete kicked the goal that was the point up, my first response was to find out how long there was to go.
Yeah.
And the message came back that we still had 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is quite outstanding when you think about the fact that you've just scored 10 goals, 8 or whatever it was in that quarter. So for it to be still 3 minutes to go, my instruction then was that I needed to have at least 3 players still in our forward line. The extra player then went on to both wings, and the defence had to hold firm.
Did you know what that free kick was for? Do you remember?
It was a holding free kick in the goal square.
When there was a couple of minutes left, and in the footage of the documentary, there's that were going into their forward line a fair bit as well.
Yeah, they did, and that's why it was important that we ensured that we held our lines. It was important that the extra player played on either wing, but it was also equally important that we had 3 players in our forward line, because when we kicked it back, I didn't want it to come back out quickly. So they did end up with the ball pushing on the far wing, and they transferred play pretty well. And at that stage, I guess there was a bit of panic that set in, thinking we do all this work at the front and maybe they might come back.
Yeah.
But I do recall that the defence held pretty well and they ran it out of there, and when the siren went, we had the football between wing and half forward.
Yeah.
So it was pleasing to hear the siren.
Oh, well, Larry, the siren sounded. What did you do next? Who was next to you? Do you remember anything like that? Like, who was on the bench at that time? Did you just what happened? Because I remember I've got it all on film. I kind of lost it, but yeah, so did everyone else. But what did you do yourself? Because you're very calm.
Yeah, well, on the bench with me, Wayne Murphy, who was my team manager throughout the year, was certainly by my side and he has been for the whole time. My daughter Anna was one of our medical trainers and she was there. My son was behind me because he was on crutches after having an operation on his ankle. Andrew Fabris was there because he was injured in round 3 and acted as my assistant coach throughout the year.
Was he 19 at the time?
Yeah, absolutely. He was under 19s and missed out on the whole year because of a knee reconstruction.
Yep.
So I remember those people obviously around me, but when the siren went, I actually fell to my knees in a bit of disbelief, and I guess at that stage the emotion in me had all drained out.
Yeah.
But I do remember the crowds jumping the fence, and somehow found myself in the middle of the ground. So I probably got dragged across in the euphoria of everybody else running onto the ground. So.
It was quite a few minutes, and to be there with the camera and all that, I didn't know what to do first. So I just filmed. I mean, I had a big, clunky camera with me, but it was quite nuts, quite crazy in those few minutes where all the singing of the song and everything like that. But then I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but all of a sudden, in all the fiasco that was happening, all the craziness and celebration, there was one guy who came in, and I think it was a Bulleen fan, and he said, "Stop! There's an issue with the score. Stop singing, stop singing." I remember there was like this eerie kind of silence for about 10 seconds, and then the players started. Obviously, they weren't too happy, and I won't repeat what they were saying. But then we found out. Yeah, do you want to explain what happened there? Who told you about that score problem, the fiasco that happened with the scoreboard? How did you find that out?
Yeah, so I got approached by one of our members, if you like, to say that the goal umpires had come in to confirm the result, which they do at the end of every game and end of every quarter. And at that stage, there must have been an issue because they couldn't confirm the result. And so the duty officer at the time came in to try and work out what the situation was. But unless the two goal umpires can confirm, they can't call the game. So the interesting part of that was that I think everyone, other than the goal umpires at that point, knew what the score was. The scoreboard had us winning. The timekeepers had us winning, but the goal umpires did not. And so, in order to
how does that work? How does the goal umpire? Both of them had the scores wrong, you said.
Well, initially the feedback that came back was that the goal umpires, one had one score, another had another, but that wasn't the case. The goal umpires came in and one goal umpire had a lot of markings on their card and the other one didn't, and we weren't quite sure why they differed from the scoreboard and the timekeepers' results. So rightfully the duty officer couldn't call it, and there was another game that was going to happen directly after us. So at that stage we were asked to move in because they had to get the next game underway, and I guess, you know, it's everybody just wants to be presented the cup and presented their medals, but they couldn't do that, and that was no one's fault. It was.
Did it? I mean, even though you won, I mean, you ended up getting the viewed footage from different sources, which we talked about, but that put a dampener. I mean, not a dampener, but you went in there, you sang the song, we got footage of that as well, but to not get the medals and everything like that, was it just, I mean, you've won premierships before, is that something that the boys missed out on, do you think?
Look, I think it's really great to be presented the cup, run around in front of your fans, everyone has a medal, all that sort of stuff, but I'll tell you what, Michael, what happened and what unfolded after that probably made it more memorable. We came back to the rooms, we celebrated regardless. We were firm believers that the result was going to go our way. We ended up down at the local hotel shouting the boys a meal the following day. A phone call from the amateurs to say that they've viewed the footage and can confirm the result. Meant the celebrations went a bit longer. What it did also help me do was that I was able to get some medals for the boys that actually missed out, because normally the medals only go to the players that played.
Okay.
So the amateurs did a great job in helping me get a few more medals to hand out to the guys that actually missed out on the game on the day.
Oh, I didn't know that.
We had a celebration in the community hall next to our club rooms. With a whole lot of family and friends afterwards, and the cup was presented to us a week later. The boys were on the footy show the Sunday after that. I think it's all great that you can get what you deserved on the day, but I think the way it all panned out, I don't know that anybody would have thought that it was a lesser event. And I think at the end of the day, we'll know what the result was.
Would you say that was it the greatest game you ever witnessed as a coach?
Oh, look, it was certainly the greatest last quarter I've witnessed as a coach. It's certainly a result that's going to last in my memory and a lot of people's memories for a long time. Look, it was a great year. It was a great way to finish a year.
As president of the club, would you say it's that under-19s grand final win? Was it the greatest Bulleen Templestowe premiership won by the club, would you say?
Look,
it's hard to say. I mean, there's been a lot of players.
That's a tough question. This club has had its reasonable share of premiership success. I would argue that if you asked any of the premiership players, they would say their own grand final was probably their greatest. I would say that it's going to live in a lot of people's memories more than others that weren't involved in playing on the day or being involved on the day. As spectators, I know there were a lot of spectators who still talk about it.
Oh, Harry, look, you know, for me, filming it and then showing, like as a teacher, showing my students and all that stuff, like that legacy of that game lives on, and now it's like on the internet and it's there permanently. I think this whole 10-year reunion documentary would be handy as well, because no one's heard any of this at all. Like all they've seen is that footage. They don't know the story behind it, apart from like, you know, the interviews that we did in the old club rooms and all that. I think it's handy to have all that. And your quote that you gave me for the documentary, which was the other 19s should remember, what was it? Hang on, I'll just get it over here now. The experience that the 19s had at grand final, they should carry them through their life, knowing that if you apply your mind, have self-belief, then nothing is impossible. Does that resonate today with your philosophy with football, or?
Oh, that resonates in my philosophy with life.
There you go.
If you want something bad enough and you think you can do it, you'll do it.
Yeah.
If you don't think you can do it, you never will. So I think what it does show is that you should never give up on things, and human self-belief is quite special. But a human bond or a bond of a team that goes through something like that together is something that I hope stays with them as an example of what they can actually achieve in whatever they believe they should be pursuing. But you know, for me, that year was a special year. We started the year with 6 players in February, and we ended up with about 34, and we had the ultimate success. So that was fantastic.
Did that win change your football life, would you say?
I think that win is something I reflect on from time to time. When you sort of need a bit of a pep up, you might watch the footage, and I'm grateful for you for that. Look, I've made a lot of great friends. That player group I consider really close. The people that I went through that year together, like any other year really. I've made a lot of good friends out of football, and I'm pleased that we're able to give something back on that day. But as you can hear in the background, it's starting to get a bit noisy. There's a footy club, and tonight we have our pie night to raise a bit of money for charity, and that'll be good too.
These questions I've been asked to ask you, I have to ask this: who in your mind was best on ground? Let's just put it for the last quarter then.
Well, no, I think I'm quite clear who was best on ground.
The whole team, that's what I would say.
Well, no, I actually think that the people that supported that team, the guys that didn't get a game, the guys who missed out because of injury, my team manager in Murph, Johnny Matthews and Jack Miller, who did a lot of timekeeping for me. Just all those people were best on ground.
Yeah.
Because you can't get to a day like that without all the support staff. The players are the fortunate ones, they get to play. And they get a medal. The rest of them, they get the satisfaction of knowing they're part of that.
And the last question before we finish, I'm going to be talking to a few of the other boys and all that still play for the club. How often would you view the original footage and the original documentary?
Thanks to you, I saw it only a few days ago.
Yeah. But over the years, it's been 10 years. It's been 10 years. So.
I would say in the 6 months after the grand final, I probably watched it a couple of times a month. I guess after that, I've probably watched it at least 10 times in the last 8 years.
Yeah.
And I guess if you ever want something to pep you up, you can throw it on. So again, I'm thankful to you for that. Slightly distracted because my team manager at the day has entered the room, and that's pretty special that 10 years afterwards, that great mate of mine is still here.
We'll have a chat with him too.
Yeah, I think it'd be worth having a chat with him. But as far as the last quarter, your belief increased as the quarter went on. Certainly, you needed to just hope that your players played the best they could.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's my last question. But if we need to have a chat, maybe I'll catch you again. But I'll be talking to the boys. But thanks again for this opportunity. It's been great.
Well, you know where I'll be.
Oh yeah, he'll be around. Yeah. But thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, Marc.
Cheers.
Gave us something to cheer about, lads. We actually had a dip. It's not a bad dip too. They're not a bad side. But you're about to have a bigger dip. You're about to play the biggest quarter you can actually muster up, fellas. You have to. Alright? You have to. If I have to carry each one of you off the ground, I'll carry all of you off the ground. But make sure you leave nothing left. Nothing. You've just got to go as hard as we can, be as committed as most as we can, and make sure we have a decent crack to finish off our season. All right?
Everything, boys, everything.
Nothing is impossible unless you get it in your mind that it is. Okay? Nothing is impossible.
Come on, boys.
So just keep chipping away at it. Make sure we get around each other. Every time we do something right, get it behind each other, tap each other on the arse, keep each other encouraged, keep going. Every goal we get, make it like it's the one that's going to win us the game. All right?
Loud, boys.
It's been a lot of good efforts through the day, but we've got to have another 25 minutes. There's nothing left. All right? Nothing left. Come in, lads. Come in really close. Come on. I'm really proud. Just give it everything you've got. I'm really proud. I don't care. Just give it everything. Come on, boys! Come on!
Boys.
Row Matz, number 22. 10 years, Row. How does it feel? Does it feel like it's been 10 years?
Yeah, when I start to talk about it with some mates, and you go back over it all, and you start to recount everything, then a lot of time's passed, but at the same time, a lot of the moments in the build-up, and just really that's the whole second half of the season, just thinking about it, it's all still very fresh in the memory.
All right. So that year, how did you say the lead up towards the finals were? Like, I think do you want to just run us through the first two finals games? What you thought of them?
Yeah, it was an interesting season before that actually. I started a bit late in the year, and we came on and we'd really struggled in the first half of the year. Really, I think we were bottom, and then as people started playing more games together, things started to click, and we really built up into the finals and managed to scrape into the four. So what did we do? We played Xavier in the first final. They'd beaten us twice already that year. We hadn't beaten them yet, and we just came out as a unified group and absolutely put them to the sword. It was awesome. Played some really good football, good ground, beautiful day to play.
Yeah, it was.
And it was a really good game of football to, I guess, be a part of. Smashed them. And then, the second final we played was against Aquinas, who just lost to Fitzroy the week before. It's only one thing, they played the same ground as us in that first final. We watched a bit of the game, and it was really soft football. Neither team was going in very hard. So we were pretty confident that if we hit them with some real physical pressure, that we could come away from win. Another team that we hadn't beaten at all that year, and we came out, we smashed them by 70 points. It was that's probably the best game of football that we played all year. That was probably the most just complete game of football I think we played as a side. It was great.
Great. So the training for the grand final, obviously it's hard for players to be left out, but there was also not just players that get left out of a grand final, but also injured players. How did you feel about that? Like knowing that there's going to be players that obviously were injured or couldn't play. What were your thoughts on the training night?
Yeah, there was. I don't know. a lot of, again, said before, he struggled in the early part of the season. There were a lot of players that sort of came on as the season progressed, and there were a lot of players that, a few players that missed out on the granny that had really played a big part in the season leading up to it, and really, really unlucky to miss out. Also, Cam Azer is a big one that ended up missing through injury, and he ended up winning the best and fairest for us that year. So that's a huge loss. A really consistent performer throughout the year. So you go, I don't know, went in a little bit cautious just because obviously missing someone as crafty as Cam was a big loss. But we brought players in as the season progressed, especially towards the latter half of the season, and thought we could cover it. So.
Okay, so grand final day, won't go through basically in the first half. Do you remember walking into the rooms at half time? What were your thoughts at that time before Harry's speech, after Harry's speech at half time? What were your thoughts? We've had a few players speak to us. What did you think about what was going to happen? Did you think that the inevitable? Did you think that basically you're a bit too far behind, or what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, another team we just hadn't beaten in all that year. We'd been smashed by them twice, actually, absolutely hammered. Like, they were a very good football team, and they'd come out and just delivered that again in the first half of the grand final. I came in and I was like, look, we'd had such a good run leading up to that. We'd already sort of done some great things, well above and beyond what any of our expectations were weeks prior. So came in at half time and you're like, look, I don't know if we've got it up to us. I had obviously had doubts. I didn't think we were in a position to win. Obviously you go into play every game and you win, but I had doubts about us winning. But it's a grand final. You just put everything you got into it, and I know that we were really flat in that first half and got revved up, and I guess everybody was really keen to make amends going into the second half to just really win back respect. So yeah, I guess that's how it's set up. And the halftime speech wasn't memorable, but I do know that the first half we were very down and flat, or nothing was happening, and then I think there was a good feeling going into the second half that we had. It's the last game of the year. We just needed to, I guess, put it on the line and win some respect back.
Just on that, Row. Now, you said about the second half how you were revved up, but then in the third quarter, do you want to step us through what happened in that third quarter? Yeah,
well, the third quarter, I think back now, and I think the third quarter was, incredibly important. I think we did lose the third quarter, but not by much. And when you consider the strength of the wind heading towards one side, we were kicking against the wind in that third quarter. We still managed to, I think we kicked 6 goals in that third quarter to their 9, if I might be wrong there. But I think, we still managed to pile on the goals and really wrestle back the competitiveness. And holding the difference, it was a 6-7 goal difference breeze. That was a huge breeze.
Yeah.
So Matt, for us to, I guess, hold them, at least be competitive with them and manage to score against that breeze as well as we did, it really set us up for obviously what was to come in the last quarter. So that was a really important quarter, that third quarter. And that's where we played a much better brand of football then as well.
It's just that, 3/4 time, you come into the huddle with Harry and the team, you're 66 points down. Now, anyone who's, watched sport or anyone's follows some sort of competitive sport knows that, that's a really big margin. And there's been words from in this documentary about how the Fitzroy president went to the coach and said, "Oh, well done, I have to leave," etc. What were your thoughts going into that 3/4 time huddle, 66 points down, and just step us through that and Harry's speech as well, if you remember anything vivid that maybe we didn't pick up, because I picked it up on camera, but being there holding a camera is different to you listening to Harry. So what changed in that 3/4 time? What made you guys come out in that fourth quarter and do what you did?
We put on a pretty good performance in that third quarter. We really, started to rally together and pile on some goals, and we had a bit of a flow going in our direction. They beat us for the quarter, but we managed to get some scoring going, which was good. Moving in 3/4 time, I think everybody, the mood had changed away from let's try and get ourselves back into this game to a bit more of all right, last quarter of the season, we've done so well, let's go out and have some fun. And that's exactly what Harry's speech was about. He was just, there was no football talk, there was just, guys, I'm really proud of you, great season, you go out there and do your thing. It wasn't a rev up speech. Let's win this. It was a good. It was a very emotional speech because he was so proud of what we managed to achieve after again wrestling back and being competitive in that third quarter. So I don't think anybody went into that last quarter, expecting thinking that we had a chance. I didn't. But I think everybody went to that last quarter sort of free of the shackles of expectation and just wanted to play some good football, have fun. It was the last time we were going to play with a group of guys that we'd really developed a strong bond with. So that, from memory, I don't remember much football talk. I just remember emotion.
Yeah, it was a great speech. Now, about the last quarter, do you just want to step through the whole quarter in terms of getting a few goals in? I mean, a few other players mentioned getting a couple of goals, gaining momentum. When was the turning point, do you think? I mean, what happened in that last quarter were you in the back line or forward line? I think you were on the ball, weren't you?
On the ball.
Yeah, so step us through the whole last quarter in terms of what was the game changer, what were some key moments, and when did you think, okay, maybe you're going to run out of time, or you might have a chance of winning this?
Yeah. Going into that last quarter, I didn't really expect what happened. I played on the ball for the whole quarter, and I think we won the first few centre clearances pretty easily. We got it out. There wasn't a lot of. I guess they must have thought they'd won it already because there wasn't a lot of try and effort on their behalf. We did start to get the ball out of the middle pretty easily, and then kicked a couple of goals. Yeah, it was good. We're winning the quarter. Awesome, well done, guys. Still no real belief that we could come back and win this. And then I think we kicked 3 goals very quickly. Within the space of a couple of minutes, we put 3 goals on the board, and then I think we got it back to about 5 or 6 goals. And because we'd kicked so many goals in such a short period of time, I think they were concentrated towards the start of the quarter as well. All of a sudden, there was a little bit of belief. And the major turning point was definitely Robbie Ellingworth's 60-metre bomb from the centre square. I mean, that was in that package of 3 quick goals. Yeah. Straight from the centre square, bounce. I think I punched it forward, it landed in his lap, and he ran from 65 metres out and banged it home with the wind. That's the moment when I noticed the crowd behind the goals. We had all our supporters that all of a sudden standing up on the hill started really roaring because, I think that was either 5 or 6 goals down at that point. Like, hang on, if we keep this going, we can probably get this back. And then from there, I think the belief and all, everybody just sort of started. We just sort of dared to dream. It's really freed things up again. We had the momentum, and then a couple more goals. I think Pete kicked a couple, Carfi kicked a couple. Then all of a sudden, the crowd erupted. We were 2 goals down. I think there was still a bit of time left as well, and then managed to put those 2 through. I guess the big nerve point was I think they kicked 1 solitary point, and I was standing right next to the guy who kicked that point. He was not 25 metres out, straight in front, and I was right near him, about to go for the tackle, but he still had plenty of room and left foot, and he just butchered it, and that would have been the icing on the cake for us, but he missed it. And
okay, well that's good that you mentioned that, because I know that they kicked 1 point, but that story you just said there, you were right there, you were the one that did it, so yeah, that's
right, mate.
An interesting point.
Kyle. Yeah, he had. There's no excuse for him to miss that. He had no. I mean, I was obviously coming from. I was the closest, but he had plenty of room to kick the goal. No pressure, and he missed. I'm sure he remembers it pretty vividly.
Yeah. The body language of the Fitzroy players. Did anything drop? I mean, we saw in the footage there's a few players cramping up, etc. But do you remember anything of them? Any of them? In the centre clearances you were in there. Did you hear anything? Any chat from them at all?
No, I didn't. Yeah, I don't remember much about them at all, except that in that last quarter, having played in the midfield for most of the game, in that last quarter, I didn't notice them. We dominated. We had dominated the centre clearances. It was always in our forward line, and I didn't feel the same level of intensity that I felt in the first probably half.
Okay.
3 quarters. And it's almost like, for 3 quarters I felt them. It was really hard to get a kick. They were fast, they were aggressive, they really, really wanted the game. And I remember that for a good 2.5, 3 quarters of the game, and then that last quarter, it's almost like they left. They thought they had it in the bag. A couple of players that did stand out from them. Kyle, the guy who missed the goal, he was hard at it until the end, and there was another guy, Ligorous or something, that was floating around and doing all right. And the only reason why I remember him was because I tried to go for a specky over his shoulders.
Gotcha. So Pete puts you in front. Pete Voglis puts the team in front, and then the siren goes. Do you just want to go through all that siren going, celebrations? I mean, we saw the footage. Everyone's going crazy. You want to explain to us that moment when the siren went? Where were you? And then obviously where were you? Going in celebrating. But then when you found out the news about the potential the scores being incorrect, do you want to go through all that with us?
I think I was towards the middle of the ground, possibly half back when the siren sounded, and the scoreboard read us in front. And when I saw that, I collapsed. I was spent. I put in everything I could in that last quarter, and I was done. And really emotional, really happy. And then when someone told me that the scoreboard's wrong and it's a draw and we may have to play another quarter, that was the worst sounding thing I'd heard for a long time.
Who had told you that?
Someone just, I think it was Tonelli's dad, said something about us possibly having to play again. The people all over the ground, and I think I was lying on my back and I was spent, and I don't know what would have happened if we had to play another quarter. I reckon they would have come out and absolutely blitzed us because they'd had the pants pulled down. They'd lost the grand final as far as they were concerned. If they had to come back out for a quarter, they didn't do anything in that last quarter. So if they came out, I reckon they would have just run steamrolled us. So, and then the confusion, relief when I found out that we didn't have to play another quarter from a purely selfish perspective because I just had nothing left in me.
Fair enough.
And then to go in and find out that the two possible results are we've won or they've won, we treated it like a win. We didn't care. I remember Harry gave a big talk after the game to say, whatever happens, we're celebrating like a win because that was amazing. And that's exactly what we did. We celebrated as if we won. We came back here, we partied like there was nothing else. And then I think we found out the next day that the result was official, which was far less, meaningful had then us even just thinking that we'd won on the day. So,
all right, right. So last question. So it's 10 years. Do you think that game? I mean, obviously, it's a sporting game. In a way, they don't really. Does it change your life? I mean, do you ever look back? I mean, where do you sit now by just looking back at that game? How did it affect you in terms of football, like your football career at Bulleen Temp? But is it obviously one of the greatest games, if not the greatest game you've played in ever at Bulleen Temp? Definitely
the most memorable game of football I've ever played, and it's something that I return to quite often, whether or not that's me thinking about it or someone bringing it up because they've Googled it, or I know in my old job they had these monthly meetings, and I was going to sit up and get interviewed as a bit of a fun and games thing, and the guy who was interviewing me Googled my name and that came up, so naturally half the interview was just about talking about this football game. And that's not the first time that's happened when people have tried to, for whatever reason, get some information. They bring it up going, hey mate, is this true that you were part of this? And it's something that you don't tell anybody for the first time and they just say, oh yeah, that's cool. It's disbelief.
Yeah.
I'm just, I've always been so proud to be a part of something like that. And I mean, it's still the AFL VFL record. I don't see that changing anytime soon. I hope it doesn't, because I want to be part of the AFL VFL grand final comeback forever. So
if you had to sum up that whole year with one word or one sentence, or what would you say in terms of remember Harry had some really good words about nothing's impossible unless you put it in your mind that it is, something like that. So do you think,
I don't know, it was just, for me, it was completely, I guess, unexpected. Coming from the start of the season, when I started, I came in round 6, and the guys, I don't think had won a game. Maybe they'd won one game, 1 at 4, 1 at 5, and when I started, to come into a team it was a rebel, really. Like, there was obviously some very good players, but there wasn't a lot of togetherness. Come to training on a Tuesday, Thursday night, there was 4 or 5 players like from the 19s representing. It was not a united team. And then to just see and be a part of a team that just gradually grew and grew as new players found positions, as people started to gain confidence throughout the second half of the year. To see, I guess the word would be transformational, because really, from what happened from the team that I joined in, the start, to the team that played off in that grand final, completely different, similar personnel, just a completely different attitude. And I guess it was, I've never been a part of anything like that before. To see a team bond over the course of a season the way they did, and how much impact that has.
Beautiful. Well, thank you very much, Roy, and thanks for being part of this. It's been great listening and getting your insight on all this, mate. And thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers. All right, Andrew, welcome. Thanks for coming down.
No, thanks for inviting us.
No, it's all right. So, Andrew, 2006, 10 years ago. What could you tell us about that year specifically? Like starting off, playing under the knees with Harry and the team. What was your role in that year?
Well, first I came down to the club because I knew Cherby and Floss. So I came down to the pre-season and met Harry through the pre-season. And was basically told, look, you're eligible for 19s. Come start with us in the 19s and we'll work our way through. So started with the 19s, but a little bit short from memory through pre-season. Sort of not too similar from every other year.
Yeah.
And then, as we started the year off, it was sort of just slowly build up more players. And sort of things sort of rolled from there. So I remember the start of the season, Harry came to me and he asked me if I'd like to be captain of the team. And I said, yeah, of course. Turned out that sort of offer. And then, the first game we played was up at Sunbury. So I remember that. We didn't have the team from what we ended up having at the end of the year that year.
Yeah.
It sort of changed quite a bit from sort of round 1 through to grand final. So at the start of the year, it was quite a different team. It was one of those things where guys brought along their mates as the year went on, and as they brought along mates, it would be my mate also plays as a half forward and my mate also plays as a forward pocket, and just slowly built the team that way. I remember actually round 2, which was my second game at the club. It was actually Dom's first time down at the club watching, so he was actually on the boundary line. So I remember talking to him and trying to convince him to play.
Okay.
So at quarter time.
Yeah. And then further on in the year, just want to step us through what happened with your role in the team. Like what happened? So you were captain, and then
I was captain, and I ended up getting injured. So played round 1 up at Sunbury. Played really well. ESO came to me and said, I'm going to take you up and play in the ones. And I said, I'd like to play a game at home first. As captain, you sort of feel it's your sort of role. So I played round 2 down here against Aquinas at the Taj. Harry was away that week, so Rafi was coaching. Harry was over at Germany via phone coaching. Sure, he had fun explaining that one on the work call list. And then after half time, went out, turned out of the centre and bang, blew my knee out sideways and stretched it off from full ACL. So that was round 2.
So it was an ACL, yeah?
Yeah. So it was an ACL with a fair bit of cartilage damage as well. So so that happened. 6 quarters into the season. Spoke to Harry after the game. Actually, he called me. And the club looked after me really well. By the end of the week, went in to see a surgeon, got fixed up, missed round 3 of watching, and then from round 4 onwards, Harry basically asked me to be assistant coach instead. And then sort of rolled through the rest of the year being assistant.
So moving on to the grand final, we'll go straight to half time. I mean, we've all seen the footage of the halftime speech, etc. But is there anything you can add? Being on the sidelines there, watching, what was the demeanour of like H during that second quarter and moving into halftime, did you have a word with him at all, walking into the rooms or while you were on the bench there coaching? Was there any words about what was Harry saying?
Surprisingly, it was really upbeat on the bench. I had Cam next to me as well, because Cam missed out, so myself and Cam were sort of controlling the board and trying to help out with moving players around and the rotations that H sort of wanted to happen. But yeah, surprisingly upbeat. We sort of felt that you could see the players were sort of frustrated, and seeing the scoreboard tick over was, sort of a bit of burden on them. But effectively, it was H saying, it's just the turn that's going to happen. It's luck hasn't gone our way. There was one kick in particular. Someone's on a half forward turn, kicked, hit the post, and it was like maybe the second or third one for the day. And it was just sort of that realisation that it's going to swing. We've just got to hang in there. So it was more about that. It was just trying to, ask us for ideas of how can we try and get across to the players. It's going to turn. You've just got to make the most of the chance. Momentum will change at some point. So it was more like those conversations, because H never lost belief in, no matter what the margin was going to, that we could turn around and get on a run. But it was just trying to, how do we send that message to the players?
Yeah.
And that was probably the hardest struggle that he had on the day, was just trying to get the message across to him. And I think we saw that in the, obviously at half time when he spoke, but especially 3/4 time when he got emotional.
Yeah.
That speech there basically summed up, what we felt. He basically never lost faith in us, no matter what the situation was. And that sort of got the reaction from the guys. Everyone sort of, it sort of sunk in, and at the end of the day, it's basically just banding together and chipping away at things, chipping away, football, chipping away at life, just slowly get there, one goal at a time, slowly chip away at it, and that's when we started to see the belief in the guys. I think it might have been the third or even the fourth quarter, one of the Fitzroy players came in, hit the post, and sort of that was, to me, that's the point that sort of thing swung. Everyone says it's when Robbie got that second goal out of the centre, but actually seeing them hit the post, the frustration on their face when that happened, and sort of the panic that set in on them, we sort of really got to run on after that.
Okay. Yeah. So that last quarter, again, you mentioned on the bench everything was pretty okay, but when you were, say, 3 goals down, or say after Robbie's goal, what was it like on the sidelines with H and Murph and Cam and everyone? When did the belief start to sink in that you've actually got a chance? Or did you know the time limit? Because I didn't know the time, and I was filming, and the crowd didn't know either. And
no, we had a pretty good indication at the time, so we sort of knew what we still needed to achieve, sort of thing, and it was still sort of under that, minutes and goals sort of ratio that we need to do. So we sort of knew it was possible after Robbie's goal that there's still more than enough time. The guys were probably thinking it wasn't, so we sent out the message that you've got time. Don't panic. Don't give away the ball by trying to bomb it from pockets and things like that. You've actually got time, and you've got them panicked. And the message went out. I think through one of the water boys even. When they were kicking out a full back, just get the intercept, get it, and still the message went out from the water boy to the players, because with the amount of points that were going on that we were kicking, just bide your time, try get an intercept, and don't sort of have pot shots centering the ball back up. So a lot of the kicks were still going to the goal square effectively, and that sort of hot spot, rather than long points and things like that. So the guys knew they had a little bit of time on their hands, but obviously, adrenaline kicks in, the guys start to panic and worry. I reckon the last quarter was the most stressed I'd seen H, purely just from the fact that, just the anxiety and the organised panic that it was of just, making sure that everyone knew there was time and people didn't sort of, effectively panic or try to burden themselves with too much. Just basically get the ball and move the ball forward and trust your teammates getting it forward. Yeah. And I think we did that pretty well.
So just one final question, Fab. In terms of obviously being assistant coach, but watching all this for the whole year, being injured, I don't know, just like, I mean, obviously you celebrated everything like that, but it would have been really hard to be watching that kind of grand final, being on the sidelines for you and Cam, yeah? Because all we keep hearing from the boys is they did it for Harry and they did it for Cam and Fab. That's all we've been hearing. So just want to step us through that. I mean, was it hard, even though they won, was it still mentally hard to like see that happen, knowing that you couldn't run out because of just, what happened?
Probably leading up to the game, it felt a little bit like that. It sort of, they don't come around very often, grand finals. So, it sort of felt a little bit like that coming into it. But then once sort of the game started, it didn't matter who the 22 were all in it together, the whole team of us. And I still find it my most enjoyable and most satisfying year of football. And regardless if I was had a jumper
of course.
Jumper on there, basically, I rode every bump.
Yeah.
I went up for every mark with them. It's the the little things that make you feel like you were there, and the fact that like we said, there was 22 guys that wore the jumper on the day, but there was about 30 of us that basically won that game together, and it was over the course of the year. And the total faith that we had in whoever basically went out to represent our team on that day, I couldn't be happier with how the year turned out. I wouldn't change a thing about it, not even round two, and not playing the grand final. I wouldn't change a moment of it, because those memories that I've got are amazing.
Fantastic. Well, thanks, Fab. Thanks a lot for this. It's a great insight from you, and thanks a lot.
No worries. Thanks for your time.
Cheers. So here we are. Murph, you were do you want to explain your role on the day, man? The whole finals campaign. What was your connection to the under-19s back in 2006?
Team manager, spiritual leader, and confident of Harry.
Halfway through that last quarter, when we started kicking those goals and Rob Illingworth kicked that big long bomb, what was your reaction on the sidelines? Like, were you more vocal than Harry, would you say?
No, I lit up another cigarette and another cigarette. A lot of Peter Stuyvesants were smoked that day, which is not a good thing to say, but it happened.
But what was the turning point in that last quarter?
I think Rob's big goal was that was the belief goal. That everyone we can actually do this if we push hard.
And then when Peter Voglis took that mark, I mean, it's not just about that goal or that mark, but there was a lot of other little things.
I think that the big thing that I really did notice at the back line said, we're not going to let this pass halfway. And they really pulled their fingers out and they didn't let the ball go past. Row Matz was exceptional in the centre that day too. It was really hard at it.
What was your reaction when we got in front with that free kick? Did you know what that free kick was for?
No, didn't.
That's a bit of an ongoing myth about that free kick, and I have to ask Pete, because Harry said you got it for holding, but on the footage we'll have to have a look at it. But when we kicked that goal, what were your thoughts hitting the front?
One of disbelief. But okay, we're in front now, let's hold it.
Yep. And then do you ever now think back to that game? Like, what are your memories of that?
Well, I live in North Fitzroy.
Oh, there you go.
So and I'm a member of the Fitzroy Junior Football Club, and my kid plays.
Yeah.
They know me.
Okay.
Here.
Yeah.
And it's been said to me that we don't talk about that day over in that part of the world.
See, that's interesting, Murph, because I would have loved to have, I mean, they'd never come here and do this, but if I had the chance to, like, talk to someone who played that game from their side, because it's all from the Bulleen's perspective, which is great, we won the grand final, but you just saying that's really interesting.
I've heard that a lot of kids stopped playing football after that game, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, it is.
I've heard a lot of, a few of the kids just said we're not playing anymore.
Wow.
Which really blew me away when I heard that.
I mean, it
was really sad.
It is really sad. I mean, is there anything else you heard at all?
No, that's about it. I just know it's not sort of a big talking point.
Yeah, it wouldn't be.
Well, as you would imagine.
As you would,
But they know my big ugly head walking around. They go, there's that bloke.
Bulleen Templestowe.
Yeah, and I go, oh, well, that's done my job, mate.
But
you know?
is there any animosity? Like,
No, there's none. There's none. They just know me. You know?
And they know that Bulleen Temp, like we came out and we did that. There was no dodgy free kick. I mean, you can't. It wasn't
No.
not like that. And they understand.
And I knew the president of Fitzroy at the time as well. You know.
Well, Murph, thanks for that, because in 10 years since it's happened, that's the first news I've heard of what happened with Fitzroy that day.
Yeah. Well, Harry was a good mate of the coaches as well.
Yeah.
John Bell.
All right, Murph, thanks for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Have a good one. Cheers.
Good on you.
That was good. Anthony Poci, number 4. How you going, mate?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Good. So it's been 10 years. Has it gone? How's it been the last 10 years? Do you still think about that game?
I think about it when I think about it. I suppose it's flown though. You look back and you can't believe it's been 10 years, to be honest.
A couple of quick questions about that whole year. How did you find? Like, did you think from the start of the year that you've got an actual chance to make in the grand final? Because apparently the numbers were fairly low.
No, look, our first game was at Rupert's Wood and we had 17 players. We lost by a point. We had it was a really good effort to lose by a point for a team with everybody that had everybody in it. But you never think you got 17 players round one and then you're going to win a grand final 20 weeks later. It was the last thing on our minds, to be honest.
So then fast forward to later in the year when a lot of the other guys that I spoke to, you had like a team that you all started gelling together, playing well together.
Yeah.
When did you realise that there is something special about this team? Was it like maybe near the finals, or just give us your thoughts on that?
I suppose we had moments throughout the year, whether they be good or bad. I mean, I remember round 2 or 3 when Fab got injured, and we all sort of bandied around him and all sort of had a bit more of a steely resolve after that. And then throughout the year we had key games, like first time we played Aquinas, I think we lost, and then we smashed them the second time round. We lost to Xavier first time, and then we beat them again. And just as the year went on, you could just see the team was getting stronger and stronger. But then again, I mean, still, you never think you're going to win the flag. We played Fitzroy Reds twice and got beaten comprehensively both times. So it still was never something that I thought about anyway.
So, leading on to the finals, just give us your thoughts on the first couple of finals that you played and how that all panned out. I mean, we were there watching it, but just as a player,
First one was Xavier at Parade. Every time I drive past that ground, I always think of that game now because we played them in cricket anyway. But I always think of them as the ground. That's where we won our first final. I knew we were fairly confident of beating Xavier. They were a reasonable side, but we were better. There's not much I remember from the game. Actually, it was a little bit of a blur. I just know we won fairly comfortably, and I actually became friends with the player who played for Xavier that day. He's a very good one of my friends, David Falacha, who also played for us later on. So probably the only thing I remember is the guys going to Falach saying bad luck after the game because I didn't even know him.
Okay.
But that's about it.
And then we'll just go straight to the second final. You took care of Aquinas, wasn't it?
Aquinas at Cramer Street. That was the game. Look, that was probably, aside from maybe the last quarter of the grand final, that was the best game we played all year. We absolutely killed them from the start. I think we won by, would have been 10 goals plus. Had contributors everywhere. Everybody played well. I remember one of the worst jobs that week was going to be to pick the final side because there were players who didn't play that game, who had played all year. I can't remember if we had anybody out injured, but I know Cam, I think, got injured in that game, which was a huge out for us. And I just remember that game being a really comprehensive win. Now, once again, knew the grand final was going to be a huge challenge. We had never beaten Fitzroy before. But look, we were playing as well as we ever had all year, so you've got to be there to have a chance.
Yeah. So moving on to the actual grand final day, did you want to just give us your insights on the first half? I mean, a lot of the other players have said similar things, but just your position. What were you doing in that game? Where were you playing? Yeah.
My position in that game, I played sort of forward pocket, half forward flank. Look, to be honest, in the grand final, I probably didn't do much. And for the first 3 quarters, I had a lot of mates. We didn't play very well. We didn't. Actually, no, I'll take that back. We did play reasonably well, but we were just getting beaten. The first half, I can't remember a hell of a lot. I remember Damo Tonelli copying a hit, and I think he went to hospital actually. I know Dom copped one as well. But other than that, I don't remember a hell of a lot out of the first half. The second half is where all the memories probably start coming back to me.
Do you remember at half time you came into the rooms, and I mean we've got on film Harry, speaking to you guys. You just want to take us through half time, being that far down, and what your feeling was after Harry had that speech, and then going into the third quarter, what happened?
Yeah, half time in that game, from what I can remember, I think we weren't too disappointed, to be honest, at how we played. I mean, I know we were behind. I can't remember the margin, but I think it was reasonable. But I don't think we were completely out of the game at half time. Like I said, I can't remember us thinking we were playing all that badly. I think it was more just, we are playing a pretty good side who's playing pretty well. And that's all I can remember, mate, to be honest.
All right. And then 3/4 time came in and you're 66 points down, and Harry brings you in, and look, I mean, I can talk about what Harry said, but you're a player, you're in that huddle. Do you just want to step us through how you thought about that, and then how you came out to go into the last quarter knowing that you're 66 points down, and pretty much anyone who's watched the footy match would know that there's no chance there, but what did you guys think? How did you gel that all together?
Look, 3/4 time was, third quarter's premiership quarter. We hadn't made that many inroads into how much we were behind. Now, to be honest, like I said, I couldn't remember the halftime margin, so I couldn't tell you how close it was to 66 points. But, I mean, it was fairly, you come in at 3/4 time, you're 11 goals down in a grand final, it's not a great feeling. And then, Harry said what he said. Look, I mean, one thing that we all sort of thought at the same time was, look, we really want to win for not only him, not only for our guys on the field, but particularly the guys off the park. Not to name any two, but Fab and Cam would be two in particular. To be honest, I mean, you could try to explain it. You can try to say, we went out with a different mindset, whatever. I can't. Maybe somebody who else might be able to explain it to you, but the first centre break of the last quarter, I think they actually got a clear centre break, and I think it was Kyle Donato actually took a bounce, kick a point and missed. So, and I think that was what actually put us 66 down. I think we might have been 65 down at the time. I think.
Yeah, I think they did kick 1 point for the game because Row mentioned that. Yeah.
And and then you just think, a matter of time till they kick him. And then the last quarter it sort of started to pan out. I mean, we kicked 2 or 3, and we thought, consolation, we're bound to kick a few. Then we kicked another 2 or 3, and we thought, like AFL teams do it too. They're taking the foot off the gas. They know they're home, whatever.
Yeah.
And then we kicked. Then I think Rob nailed the big goal from 60 odd metres out. Sort of began to think, well, we might be a sneaky chance, because there was a lot of, I think there was a lot of time left, because I think we kicked 5 or 6 in pretty quick succession. And then we kicked another couple. And then I remember ball getting kicked long into the forward line, and Pete getting a free kick The ball actually fell around my ankles, and I think I fell over trying to kick it through anyway. But thank God they took it. They gave it back to Pete, and Pete kicked a goal which put us in front. Now they didn't have totals on the scoreboard that day. Now I remember adding it up in my head, and I think I turned to Rametta and I said, "Dad, are we in front?" And he's going, "Yeah, we are by a point." And I thought, "Oh shit, all right." And then with the rest of the last quarter, there's a few key moments I remember. I remember the ball getting kicked to the grandstand side. There was a stoppage. Then I remember the ball getting kicked into the forward line. It took a horrible bounce their way. And I think it was even me that kicked it actually. And their centre half back, I think it was, ran onto it, kicked it out to the far flank, and then they centred it. And I remember Radatti punching the ball forward. And then after that, all I can remember is the siren. And it was an amazing feeling. I remember I was right next to Dom. He jumped all over me, kneed me in the nuts as well, which was fun. But I mean, to be honest, I didn't even feel it. I remember running around thinking, I mean, how did that happen? I remember my dad saying to me as I ran onto the field that it was the most amazing thing he'd ever seen in a footy field, and he's watched footy for 30, 40 years.
And how did you feel, so the siren when everyone's celebrating, and then obviously we've been through this a few times, but what were your thoughts, when did you find out that there was an issue with the scores, and how did you feel about all that after doing all that hard work? And that was really
the scores not matching thing was, to be honest, I mean, it's one of the most painful moments of my life. I remember we were celebrating, and I can't remember who it was, but there was a voice that kept saying, "Guys, stay warm, you'll have to play extra time." Now, it is my belief, I might be wrong, I might get torn apart, but my teammates in the team, had we played extra time, we would have lost. So
actually, a few of your players.
That's my opinion. Now, extra time would have been, to be honest, I mean, if it had to be settled away, I think that's the best way to have settled it. Now, ironically, Collingwood won a grand final on a replay. So it's amazing how I even thought how I think that now. But if you'd asked me back then, I don't know what I'd think. And then there was talk of dual premiers, which, to be honest, I mean, it's bullshit. There's no such thing as dual premiers. There was a winner and a loser that day. Now, whether we had just fallen short or whether we had gotten over the line, there needed to be a result. So look, the biggest regret of that day, to be honest, I haven't really thought about it a lot since, but I mean, that night, and I remember, I think it was Pete, who had won a flag here in 2004, came to us and said, "Look, it's not the same drinking without a medal." And look, for me, who'd never won a flag, whether it be cricket, football, whatever, I mean, I was happy to be a part of it, to be honest. But now I see what he meant. I mean, that night, we had a great night. I mean, we did a lot of stupid stuff that we always do. But, you know, I remember getting the text the next day. I was, what was I doing? I think I was at my parents' house, actually, and I was on the couch, and I got a text from Harry saying, "Premiers?" And then I called my sister, I think. Actually, no, I called Anna and said to her, you know, I didn't say we just won the flag. I said, "You need to get here and take me to the tippy pub because that's where everybody's going." So, yeah, it was an amazing time. Look, from starting, like I said, with 17 players to ended up being premiers, declared premiers the day after the grand final. I mean, you couldn't have written it. So it's always going to be the most special sporting moment I've ever been a part of, and that includes being a supporter of big teams and teams that I've ever played in.
All right. I think that's about it. Poch, unless you can think of...
I forgot a couple of things.
Yeah.
Just as because I haven't talked about it. So just on when did I think we had something special?
Yeah.
So throughout the year, the team in particular, you know, it wasn't just the 10 best players or the 22 on the field. It was the entire squad we started to do a lot of things together. We started to go out together. And I know one night in particular at the Railway Hotel, we had a pool session at Brunswick Bars and went to the Railway. And that night, I mean, I know that we're for a few years afterwards. Actually, we actually joked that was the night that won us the flag, but it just got way out of hand. I mean, we got we had a lot too many beers, and being under 19s, none of us could drive anyway because obviously alcohol limits. And I remember playing football with Dom in the car park here before they redid it. It would have been 3 or 4 in the morning, and having to get up to go to work the next day. I don't know if he was the same. So that was fun. Another thing that I remember from that team would have to be, I look back now being 29, 10 years afterwards, the best friends that I've sort of had in my life, I met because of this club and that team in particular. These are guys who, I've had them as groomsmen at my wedding. These are guys who we've gone on overseas trips with, guys who, I've been to their house, they've been to my house, been invited to their weddings. My best friends have come from that team, and whether we may have been friends without it, had me and Radatti come down when we did, and we came down and we would have been too old to play 19s. Would it have ended up the same? It may have, but that team was a very big part of my life.
Well, that's great. Thanks for that, Anthony. Thanks heaps, mate.
No worries.
Thanks for your time. Cheers.
No worries, beautiful.
All right, so Cam, welcome. Thanks for coming down for us, mate.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
No worries. So Cam, 2006, 10 years ago, how does it feel from then till now? Has it flown by, or how often do you think about that great year at the Bulleens?
It's probably flown by. It's something that I pretty much actually look at every day. I've got a big poster of it above my bed, so I get to look at that great experience every day. So that's something that's pretty positive, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Now, throughout the whole year, how would you sum up the whole team mentality of going through, starting off into the finals? I've heard a lot of things from other players saying that as time went on, you guys gelled well together.
Yeah.
Just want to give us some feedback on that.
I think it was probably a bit of a roller coaster of a season, like with the players coming in and out, and a lot of new players and a lot of new faces and everything like that. So we kind of started off a little bit shaky, and we didn't really know each other. But I mean, like you were just saying, once the season got on, like we just gelled, and I've probably never been a part of a team like that that's just been so close, and we all worked together for the same goal. We probably weren't the most talented team out there, but probably our mateship and everything like that just got us together. And so once we, probably halfway through the season, we kind of thought, well, we're playing some pretty decent footy here, we can kind of give it a crack to try and get to finals and things like that. So it didn't seem like it was that far out of our grasp. So the longer the season went on, the better we got, the more mateship came around and things like that too. So
beautiful.
Yeah.
So then going into the finals, you played in the first final. How did you find that game?
Playing the first final. We were just on from the start. I mean, I think we absolutely smashed them in the first half, and the game was over after that. So you could tell that it was kind of something special after that. I mean, I don't think none of the players expected to win the game the way we did and to dominate the game the way we did, especially during the season. We lost them during the year as well. And so you kind of hold those little reservations in the back of your mind that, we've lost against this team previously, but what's it going to be like this time? But I mean, from that first 10 minutes of the game, you could just see that everyone was just on the room to go. And I mean, after half-time, game was over. So
into that second final, do you just want to step us through what happened in that game for yourself personally as well?
It would have been, I think, just before half time, or just around the half time siren. I was playing in the middle, I think, and because I hurt my knee, I think maybe 3 or 4 weeks prior to that at training, and then I think I missed the last maybe 2 games of the season, and then came back for the first time.
Okay.
So I think I had to do a bit of a fitness, like a trial thing just before that first final to get through, because I didn't really train that week. And then got through that game, and then came into the second game, didn't really have any issues or anything like that, but then felt it go again as I went to dive for a ball, I think. And
what was it? Your knee, was it?
Yeah, my right knee at the time. So it just I don't know, it must have just caught into an unlucky position, and then just after that, I couldn't do much running. I could only pretty much go into a straight line.
Did you get up straight away from after
I
that?
did, because I didn't really feel it at the time, and then once I started to move, that's when I knew that it's happened again. So I didn't take much part. I didn't think I played any of the second half anyway. But it's pretty much like the first one. I mean, we were just on again. We just smashed that game.
Did you know from then, the extent of the injury? Did you think, okay, I'll be back next week?
I knew it was going to be tough. I knew it was going to be very, very tough to get back.
Did you train that week?
I didn't train at all. I didn't train at all that week. I did nothing that week. I was just getting constant physio and everything that I could to try and get through the game, to try and get to the game. So I didn't do much training at all during the week, just trying to stay off it and things like that. And I think I did test the day before with the physio, and I was actually feeling quite good. And then I went left for a mark or something like that, and I had to deviate for the ball, and it went again. So then I kind of knew that I could risk the chance of playing, try and get through a game, but I mean, it's a grand final, and I thought, we've come this far, we could be onto something special here. So I didn't want to put any of the other boys, go in there not fit and kind of doubt myself as well. So it was obviously, I'm happy with the call that I made, and it was probably the right thing to do in the end, to get Radatti to play.
That's a pretty, that's a big thing to do, Cam, to take yourself out of a grand final team. I mean, you were having a great year that year as well. I think you won the best and fairest. Yeah. So to do that shows great character. And I remember that night, I remember the whole training week, and it was pretty sad to see, well, not only you, but Fab as well, doing his knee earlier in the year, and he spoke to us. But to do that, to take yourself out, shows great character. And do you just want to step us through grand final day, being on the sidelines there? What were your thoughts at, let's just say, at 3/4 time? There was a key moment in there with Harry's speech. Just step us through that and what your role was in that.
I think we were obviously in a hard position then, but having Harry as my first year down at the senior club and everything like that, I played juniors and everything, but the first year down here, I've never had someone like Harry to kind of take you under his wing and welcome into a situation and welcome into a club with such open arms. And he would literally just do anything out of his way to make sure that you're okay, how you're going, those types of things, and just to make sure that you're having fun at the club. And that was his big thing, and I think that's probably why all of us enjoyed the year so much and why we were so successful. And to see him, he was a big part for us to get to that position, and to see him kind of get emotional and break down in a way was something that really hit close to me, I thought. And it wasn't that he was disappointed or anything like that. You can tell he wasn't disappointed. It was just that I think it was a hard fight for him as well, and he was so proud of us about what we've done. So I don't know. I mean, it's not something that you think about. I just got in there and just said, boys, I mean, we're in a position. It's a hard position. So I was just thinking, well, let's not worry about winning the game or anything like that. I mean, let's just try and show something for him, because he put so much on the line that year for us.
Come in, Ray, come in. If your coach comes down to tears because of us, show some fucking heart and do it for him. Do it for fucking Harry. Do it! Come on, boy! Do it, come on, run out the game and win the game. Do it for Harry. No one else but him. That's right.
I mean, he sacrificed so much, all the time and effort that he does. I mean, definitely didn't go unnoticed by the players. So I mean, that's just how I thought. I really felt a really strong connection with Harry that year, and I still do to this day. I mean, he's been a big part of my football life and a big part of my life outside of footy too. So it obviously is a credit to him that
of course,
all players think of him in that way.
So we'll just talk about the being on the sideline there. The last quarter, say the big moments. I mean, we've all talked about Robbie's goal, but after Pete put you in front, what was it like on the sidelines with H?
It was just, couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe what we were seeing. Couldn't believe that this was, even possible in a way. To play probably 30 minutes of the best footy that you'll probably ever see for a long, long time was something that was amazing. But yeah, just like Rob's goal, that's something that's unreal. He literally got the ball out of the centre, just bombed it nearly 70 odd metres. So it's something that type of level of footy you don't see. And Pete was just dominating, Carfi was dominating, all the boys just got around each other, and it's just, it's freakish to see. It's freakish when you think back, 66 points in a quarter of footy is just probably never heard of again. So,
yeah, it was amazing.
It was great the way that I actually got to just sit there and watch it, but
just
would have rather to be out there.
Yeah, on that, Cam, I asked Fab the same question. Mentally, to sit there and to just be a spectator, but you were part of obviously you're part of the team, you're a great player, and then to have to sit out and watch it, did you find, the celebrations, obviously you're all part of the team, was it still hard to sit there and watch all that, knowing that you were just so close to be playing in that grand final?
It hurt, but like I said before, I was comfortable making the decision that I made. And it's not something that I just quickly made on the spot. I thought about it pretty long and hard, and I thought I made the right decision by the team. But it's once the game was over and everything like that, and you kind of get back here and you celebrate, and you're talking through the game and things like that with the little boys. It kind of set in a little bit more I wasn't there, I wasn't part of it type thing. But in saying that, I guess I keep coming back to mateship and things like that. We're all just so close that throughout that whole celebration and whole fun time we had together, even now, I still feel like I was part of it. So
of course, yeah.
Yeah, but it's definitely hard.
Yeah,
it was definitely hard. Something that could have been part of something really, really special, and it would have been amazing. But in the same time, I guess I was for a lot of the season.
Of course you were, and H. When we interviewed H as well, he said the same thing, that everyone was part of that team, and for what you did, he said the same thing as well. So look, I just want to say thanks for coming down and having a word with us, and it was great to get that insight from you. Thanks, Cam.
Cheers, mate. Appreciate it.
Well, Anthony, welcome. Thanks for coming down, mate.
No problem.
Yeah, 10 years. How's it? Has it been quick? Do you reckon?
Yeah, too quick, mate. Too quick.
Now, we'll talk about the that whole team. Okay, so start of the year. When was your first game? Did you start from the start?
I started from the start. Yeah. My first season with Bulleen.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And how did you find after say the first 8 rounds? How was the team travelling at that time?
I played the first 4 because then I got a groin injury, and then the first 8 rounds a bit up and down. We would win the games against the lesser clubs, and then we'll probably lose pretty heavily to the better ones. But we did start with 18, sometimes 16.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting start. It was a very up and down. Yeah.
And then moving on to when did you think throughout the year that you guys were pushing for finals?
What do you mean by that?
When did you know that the team that you had, you started to gel well together? Because a couple of other fellas were maybe around 12, around 13, you guys started going out together, hanging out more.
Yeah. The one thing that I can remember the most was it was one night at the Railway Club in Fitzroy, I think it was. Harry, Murph and all sorts of stuff took us out, and it was midway through the year, so it would have been round, it's halfway, I don't know.
Yeah.
Around 8, 9 or something like that.
Poci said the same thing, you went out.
Around 9, around 10, and Harry and Murph, they put up big spread, cheap meals, cheap beers. It's in the middle of the week, it was a Wednesday night. And we got pretty blind, and
That was a key moment.
yeah, it was just we all just clicked. Everyone stayed. Like there was 22 blokes that were there that night, and we all stayed and gelled and got to know each other pretty well. And then after that, we didn't lose a game. So we had a draw the last round, I think it was.
Yeah.
I can't remember who the team was now. I think it was Terry. I think it was Terry.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, I honestly can't remember. So
yeah. So then moving on to the into the finals. How did you feel about the first two finals? How did like your performance, the team's performance? You were in the back line, yeah?
Yeah, I was in the back line. First game was a pretty good game. I played the first one. Yeah, we had a pretty good win against Zavs. Smashed them. We beat them. I didn't play against them the second time. The first time I played probably a quarter because I got injured again. But the second time we played, we smashed them. We had a pretty big blue with them as well.
Yeah.
But that time they were pretty confident going in. Thought that we were definitely the best side in the finals, apart from Fitzroy.
Yeah.
So we're pretty happy. Like, we knew we were going to smash Zavs. The Qantas, is it Qantas?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Qantas. I didn't play that game. I got dropped that game. I think it was more for matchups. I honestly don't know. I have to ask Harry that one.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, no, I got dropped that game, so I was running. It was a pretty fiery game, and disappointing not to play. But
how did you feel? Like, did you when they won that game? Did you have any doubts about the grand final?
Oh, definitely.
Maybe,
yeah, definitely. I was pretty hard to break into a side that's just beaten a relatively good side, Qantas by, I think it was 30 to 40 points. So
even more.
Gave him a good touch up. I thought, how am I going to break in?
Then you went to training
Went to training, did what I had to do, mate.
Yeah.
I ended up finding out that I wasn't going to play on the Thursday night, so I wasn't supposed to play.
Okay.
Which was pretty disappointing.
Yeah.
I wasn't too happy about it. But on the Friday night before the game, I got a phone call from Cam Azer saying, because he was a bit touch and go.
Yeah.
And I was in the first emergency, so he called me up and said, I can't make it, my knee's fucked. So he gave me a spot, and then Harry called me after, and there's this issue, I guess. So it was pretty good.
And then going into the grand final, just step us through the first half. You were in the back line, so obviously you got a lot of goals got kicked against you guys. What happened in the back line at that time in the first half of the grand final?
It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
You tested me. It was, they were ridiculously good. Skilled, shows how they're going. In the Amos and seniors, because a lot of those players are playing, or probably maybe there's 5 or 6 of those players that are playing for Fitzroy Reds, the senior side. They were very skilled, hard side. They were giving us a good old-fashioned touch-up. And I remember going into half-time and I was thinking, fuck, we're done here. It was flat in the rooms. I was pretty sure you got it on the video as well. It's a pretty dim moment, it was.
And then what happened when Harry spoke to you guys at half time? Did you seriously think at that point, you're pretty far down, 3/4 time, the third quarter you came out and they kicked a few more goals, but you guys obviously kicked some as well. How did you feel at 3/4 time? Like, what happened at 3/4 time you came in?
3/4 time, I was pretty angry. I can remember him celebrating on the field already. It was the final side, I hadn't gone yet. I wasn't too happy about that. I thought it was a bit disrespectful. So that's what I can really remember going into. And that quarter, we sort of I think we won the quarter.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah.
I think we won the quarter because we were down by 77 points or something at one stage during that third quarter, and we kicked a couple back, got it within 12 goals, as stupid as that sounds. I think it was 11, and I wasn't that happy going in. Yeah.
And then do you remember Cam came in? Can you just step us through like Harry's 3/4 time speech and then what Cam said? And then we had you on film as well. as I was walking past about manning up on the forward line. But yeah, step us through that. Just 3/4 time speech with Harry and Cam and everything.
Cam coming in, I can't really remember, to be honest with you. I can remember on the footage,
Yeah.
but I don't remember it on the day.
You just said like do it for Harry. I mean, did you guys?
I think that's right. Now I come back a little bit is anyway.
Yeah.
So Harry, it was a pretty emotional speech, saying he was proud of us, which we wanted to. It was he's been in multiple grand finals with seniors.
Yeah.
And didn't win one, so we wanted to try and win it for him, but it wasn't happening for us at that stage. And he came in and said he was really proud of us and got us all pretty emotional. I think a lot of the boys left that huddle in pretty walled up and ready to take it on, just to give it a good old fashioned crack, last crack. And then Cam came in and he said what you said, just do it for Harry, kick the first couple of goals, make it respectable, along those sort of lines is what I can remember. And as I said to you before, I wasn't too happy about the situation that came before, and I'm pretty sure he's picked up on your thing that I put their heads in the dirt, because that's really what I wanted to do to him at that stage. We had a pretty big back line. Like Chance is pretty big and aggressive, and so was Chikim as well. He's a big boy and aggressive as well. And I just thought, we can't let him run all over us here. We have to. We've got to make them earn their kicks and earn each touch they have. So. Do it. You understand? Every time. Everyone, I need to put them in stuff. Finish the game, bro. That's what I thought anyway.
So then going into the last quarter, goals started coming through. You're on the back line, so it's a bit different. We've been speaking to a lot of forward players, but what happened in the back line? Did they get it down there much? Do you remember much of that? Well, how was your opponent? What were they thinking? Did you hear anything from your opponents about?
So to answer the first question, it came down maybe 4 or 5 times. Majority of the back line is spoiled or it was intercepted. They kicked 1 point and it was on me. Yeah. It was their full forward, let up, and it's in the footage you can see. He just had too much on me and couldn't get to him. Yeah. And that was probably, I reckon, not even halfway through the quarter. So we had kicked 2 or 3, maybe 4. Yeah. And then, we started to get a feeling, and their heads were starting to go, oh, wait a second, there's something going on here. And they got, so he got the mark, and you could see him going back, and he was probably about 40, 45 out, and he was really panicky with his kick. I was lucky enough that he missed it. Yeah. So he got the point. But yeah, when we started to get on a roll. You could just see them that they're just like, oh geez, what's going on here? Their heads were starting to bow down, and they're starting to get, get a little bit nervy. Which was.
When did you think that you were a decent chance? Did you ever think about time was running out, or what was a key moment for you in that last quarter? What was the pivotal moment?
Rob Illingworth's goal, 60 out.
Yeah.
That was when I think we might have been 2 goals down when he kicked it to bring us a goal within a goal. I think. Yeah. And that was the one was fucking well. Yeah. We're looking for a chance here, and he kicked it a fair whack. Yeah. So yeah, that's what. And
then Pete Vog put you in front. What were your thoughts in the back line at that time? Like, who did you have a word with the backman about? Okay, look, they're going to come at us with everything. Were you stressed out? I mean, you would have been.
Yeah, I was stressed out, but I think I was calling a few of the wingers back to fight the forward line, making sure everyone was manned up. Yeah, all that sort of stuff that you do.
And then the last minute of the game was predominantly, I'd say, their forward line, the wing, and then when the siren went, where were you and what happened? Just go through.
I was in the back line.
Yep.
And I can remember everyone going up and me looking at the scoreboard, not really believing it. and then thinking, fuck, have we won? And then everyone starts running in and all becomes a bit of a blur and everyone's jumping on top of each other and we look at the H and all that sort of stuff, and yeah, it was a pretty good feeling that one.
Yeah, and then obviously about a minute later you got the news that there was a problem. Then you came in the rooms, but Harry, he just said he was proud, it didn't matter about what happened, but what were your thoughts? Like, did that spoil the moment for you at all, personally?
Yeah, it did, because like, you didn't get to lift the cup at the ground, all that stuff that you get to do on grand final day. But we thought we'd won anyway. All the boys reckon that if we went to extra time, that we would have lost. I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's what they've been saying. I mean, you were in the back line, what do you think?
I don't know about that. Look, they did have a lot of footy. We were out on our legs. I don't know, I reckon we might have pipped them. Like, we were a lot better than them in that quarter, and they were gone.
Yeah.
They were gone. Like that, I remember seeing them, they were
cramping up,
crying, cramping. Like when there was whispers of us having keeping on going extra time. I can remember some of them just like cramping up, getting like we were cramping up as well, but we weren't as spent as what they were. They were mentally gone as well. So, but that in the room was it was pretty quiet. It's a strange feeling for winning a grand final. Like you go in there, you go, oh, what's going on? Like have we won? And then we had to wait. You know, it was pretty.
It was a weird day, but look, Radats, I mean, how would you sum up that whole year, the whole experience? I mean, it's easy for people to watch it and say, wow, it's amazing, but to be on the ground when all that happened, has it affected, like, you know, your life in a way, would you say?
I wouldn't say it's affected my life.
But like, you know, you look back on it and you're like, wow, I played in one of the most amazing grand finals.
Yeah, I was pretty proud of being a part of it. Even if I didn't play, I would have been disappointed, of course. But you know, you're a part of the season as far as I'm concerned. Everyone's contributed.
I mean, Cam, Fab,
exactly.
as well. Those guys,
they all did their part. Trust me.
Yeah.
It hasn't affected me, mate.
But you
I'll look back on it and I think very fondly of it.
Good.
When I catch up with a few of the guys I haven't seen for a while that played in that side, we always talk about it. My missus, her cousin is Marcus. Is married to Marcus Meadows.
Oh yeah.
So Marcus Meadows played football and
that's
in the game. So you know, every now and then we bring it up just to shit the girlfriends, you know, all that sort of stuff. You know, reminisce at old times. You can't put a price to that. I don't think so. Yeah.
All right, mate. Well, thanks for giving us that insight, Anthony. Yeah, it was great. Cheers, mate.
Well, thank you.
Beautiful. Pete Voglis. Pete, it's been 10 years.
Can't believe it.
Yeah, can't believe it. 10 years. So, look, I don't know what question to ask you first, but how does it feel like it's been 10 years since that game?
It's hard to say. 10 years is a long time. It doesn't actually feel like 10 years, but when I think back to that time then, I think, gee, it was a long time ago. So a lot's happened in that period of time. So it's one of those ones where it doesn't feel like 10 years, but when you really think about it, you probably honestly say, 10 years.
All right.
Sounds pretty fair.
Now, in that whole year, how did you find like the lead up? Did you think that basically that year you would be playing in finals? I mean, we all play in finals, but how did you feel about the team?
I think we started pretty slow, if I can remember correctly, and it's always hard for us to get a lot of numbers, especially early days. It's always hard to get numbers to the game, to training, to get numbers to the game. So I think we started slowly, but I think once we kicked on, especially towards the back end of the year, Fitzroy was always the best side, but I think everyone else thought, geez, this side's pretty good when they get a full crack at it. Because we had some really good players that started playing towards the end of the year. Everyone was playing together, and we're winning a lot of games at the back end of the year. But we didn't finish high enough to play in the first final, so we ended up playing in the second final. But we had the momentum, but Fitzroy were always still the best side.
And you played Old Zavs first, yeah?
Old Zavs first, yeah.
And then you played Aquinas.
Then we played Aquinas, yeah. So we went the hard way because we didn't finish in the top 2. We thought we were better than Aquinas. We knew we were better than Old Zavs, and we put them to the sword early, Old Zavs, in the first final.
Yeah, you did.
They did come back towards the end, but the game was over at half time. So we knew we were better than them. We knew we were better than Aquinas, and again, we ran over Aquinas pretty comfortably too. We were really building, like the side was really building from the back end of the year straight through to the finals, and I think we were a really good shot, but in the back of our minds, we knew that Fitzroy was the side to beat. Like, they were always going to be the hardest side to beat, and yeah, it ended up being something pretty different.
It did. So, grand final day. Look, it obviously just break down like the first half of the game, because obviously it wasn't the best way to start.
Yeah.
And just give us your thoughts about the half-time, going into the rooms and with Harry and what happened, because I mean, I was there, and it was a pretty, looking back for me and for you guys, obviously it was a special moment, and you didn't know what was going to happen in those 2 quarters.
Yeah.
But what did you honestly, and you can be honest, what did you honestly think at half-time when Harry gave that speech?
Look, half-time came, and to be honest with you, I played with my cousin David was playing at the same time, so we were obviously pretty close. We both played pretty much in the middle at the start of most of the first half. So between the both of us, it was a lot of frustration in the first half. We just felt like, we just weren't playing well. We just thought, they were all over us. They were too strong. We were trying our hardest, but we didn't feel that we were getting anywhere. So half time was, you're in a bit of a dejected state. You're sort of thinking to yourself, this is not our year. We knew that, and you fall into that, that pattern of thinking where you go, well, we knew they were the best side. They have been the best side all year. They're giving us a touch up, so it's probably expected. But a little bit in the back of your mind thinks, if you can just get a couple of goals, you don't know what could happen. And Harry has always been, and he's coached me for a lot of years, always been very positive. He's always one to never give in. So you take a little bit of, you try your best to get yourself up, but, being honest, you really do feel the pressure, and you feel things are going to be hard from here. And it didn't start well at the start of the third quarter. I think we gave away a free kick before the quarter even started, and they kicked the goal. So, it was really, and it was more frustrating than anything.
Yeah.
That we were probably giving away goals where we didn't really need to, and it was some more of the fact that we were probably, weren't switched on mentally, and that was costing us big time.
Okay. 3/4 time, what do you think changed in terms of Harry came in and he gave that speech? Just tell us about what you thought about what happened during that 3/4 time.
Look, again, Harry's a very positive person, and his message is always positive, and he's always one for just trying your best. So the game, and you have to be honest, and I don't think many guys are walking in going, if we can string a good quarter together, we're going to win this game. I think most people were with the fact that, it is what it is. We're probably not going to win. We're going to try, we've tried our best. Have we played as well as what we could have for the first 3 quarters? Probably not. And just Harry's belief in just staying positive and just having a crack. I think it was more the fact that everyone was just thinking, look, let's just have a crack. We win the last quarter. We go with our heads out high. We're beaten by a better side. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone would have thought to themselves, if we can kick the first 4 or 5 goals, there's a chance to win this game. I don't think anyone's ever come back from that far behind. So, I mean, it was, if anyone now turns around and says, they had a feeling, I think they'd be lying, because I don't think you really could. And again, more frustration of the fact that, we were behind by so much, and probably felt like, we were better than that. And like I said, keeping things positive, and I mean that Cam Azer, sort of implored us to have a real crack, just for Harry's sake, and just to give him something to finish on a high. And if we weren't going to win it, let's at least go down by 4 or 5 goals, and let's have a crack, and at least do our best. So
yeah,
that's the thinking as you're going at the last quarter. I don't think you're thinking we can win this, because we're a fair way back.
Yeah. So now the going into that last quarter. I mean, look, you got to string a few goals together, 2, 3. When do you think the turning point? When do you think the turning point was for the crowd and for your team to actually think, hang on a minute, we've actually got a chance here? I mean, you could always say, when we hit the front, but when was the time where you thought, their heads are down,
Yeah.
and we've actually got a chance here. When was the turning point for you?
I don't think until like the back end of the quarter where you really start to think to yourself, well, hang on a sec, we've kicked like 7 or 8 goals now, and we're only down by 2 or 3. And I think it was more the fact that the ball wasn't leaving our forward 50. So even though I think we kicked 10 goals 8 in the last quarter, I think, if I'm right. So even though like we weren't kicking goals or kicking behind, the ball wasn't going far. It was going straight back in. So when you're only 3 goals down and you think to yourself, well, the ball hasn't hardly gone into their 50. I think it went into their forward 50 once and they kicked 1 behind. You think to yourself, well, we keep getting the ball inside 50 and the time keeps going. Yeah, maybe we're a chance to get one. But I think the overwhelming feeling the whole time was we're gonna get there, but we're gonna just get that little bit we're gonna fall that little bit short. I think we just thought the time was gonna beat us in the end. Because without knowing how long is on the clock and you never know, you just always think that it's, oh no, the quarter's gone too long. Surely the siren's going to go. So it's not really until those last moments, I'll be honest with you, it's not until you actually hit the front where you think to yourself, like, shit, we can win this.
Well, that's where, I mean, I'll come to it now. Was it a free kick you got or was it a mark you got?
Free kick,
Yeah, the free kick. Now, what was that for? Because there's a lot of people saying,
So I think just like say 2 minutes before that, I think I might have had a word at the umpire and just said, come on, like I haven't got one, you haven't given me one all day. Like, you know, and yeah, I think it was just a pack of players and I was going backwards and the pack was sort of coming forwards. And to be honest with you, I don't really think much happened at all, but you can't really remember. And when you watch a video, it doesn't look like there's much in it at all, but you know, you got to get one, you need an element of luck. You know, but they say you make your own luck, and I think we made our own luck just by constantly winning the ball and constantly getting inside our 50, and we got one of those free kicks, and that was just that lucky. As I said, we didn't get one all day, and we got one at the end, and probably at the best time to get one, so we'll take it. And I certainly wasn't going to give it back.
And then when you got that ball in your hand, and did anyone tell you that we're 5 points down, wasn't it? And you know?
I knew the scores, so I knew what was going on. I knew we were 5 points down. I knew every goal. Every time we kicked the goal, I knew how far down we were. So I knew, you know, and
how did you feel?
Oh, look.
What was in your head when you grabbed that ball and you went back? And we've got the footage of it.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered, you know, 10 years from now, what actually goes through your head when you line up for a goal in the grand final to put you up?
Yeah, well, the first thing you think, well, I think the first thing you think to yourself is like, you don't want the siren to go, because you don't want to be kicking after the siren, because that just adds a whole other element to the kick. The other thing is we had great support behind the goals, like we had really great support. So you're just thinking about those guys and how they're going to erupt. You got guys telling you what to do, take your time. I've always been confident kicking in front of goals, so that's another tick that I've always enjoyed kicking goals as well. So it was basically just go back. I think you just forget about everything. You just go back to the routine that you know, and you just go back and kick the goal. And I wasn't that far out, which was good, and I wasn't on a tight angle or anything like that. So it was a pretty standard kick for me, you know. And it was just one of those ones where you don't want to. I didn't want to kick it too hard and miscue it. You don't want to kick it too softly and not kick it properly. I just wanted to just get it exactly like, you know, perfectly. And I think I just steered it as best as I could. And once you're running in and the ball's left your foot, it's over then, so you don't think about it too much.
So I mean, it's a lot of people probably, you know, that kind of pressure is a pretty big deal, and I think that moment. And what did you think of Robbie's goal, like halfway through the quarter? Because a lot of people think Harry mentioned that could have been a turning point. There was other turning points. There was a smother. There was some good marks, good tackles. But I guess, like you said, you can't narrow it down to one moment.
Yeah.
But that goal, I think, and I believe, and Robbie's goal. What do you think of Robbie's goal?
Well, that's just momentum, you know, and that's what that goal did for us. So you've gone from kicking one goal, and then you've kicked another one, and then all of a sudden the ball's gone to the middle of the ground. It's rolled, you're on the ground. Someone's picked it up and kicked it from 60 metres. It's momentum for your side. It's a heartbreak for the other side, because they start thinking far out. You start thinking, oh, you know, how good's this? So that one was a really good big kick for momentum, because you go from sort of, you know, just kicking a couple of goals to, you know, now we're just kicking them, you know, every 2 seconds. Like, you know, this is what we need to do. So and then I think after that it goes forward, and then, you know, Tonelli takes a mark and he kicks a goal, and you know, it's more from that goal is more for momentum than anything, and it just gives you that belief that like you can just continually get the ball inside 50 or kick goals.
Yeah. So the siren goes, and there's all the celebrations and everything outside the ground, obviously on the ground, everyone's celebrating. When did you hear about what happened? Like, how did you feel about when you got the news that potentially you may have not have won the game?
Yeah, so I think we were in the more envious position than what Fitzroy were, because the scoreboard said that we had won, so everyone it wasn't taken away from us the pure exhilaration of winning, because the siren's gone, you look at the scoreboard, we're in front, all the supporters are on the field, everyone's hugging, everyone's shaking hands, everyone's wrapped. So the elation, we didn't get robbed of that.
Yeah.
And then after, it was a bit of frustration of, what do you mean, what's going on? Like, how can you not know? But you could never take away the fact of that. So even if we hadn't have won the game and ended up being a draw, or Fitzroy didn't have won because the scores were wrong, you couldn't take away the feeling that we had, and nor could you have given that back to Fitzroy. It would have been an empty win for them in the end.
Yeah.
Just as much as it would have been a hollow victory if it would have been a hollow victory if they had won, just as much as we would have still taken away a lot of positives if we hadn't won in the end, because we got that crowning glory, we got that camaraderie, we got that elation, and it was, so all it was for us was just a pause, basically. Celebrated, pause. Oh well, then after it was like, oh well, even if we don't win, how good was this? And then when we found out that it was all good, it was celebration again. So it's just like a pause, basically.
Yeah. So I'll end it now with one more question. Just that game there. I mean, people who aren't followers of sport would just say, "Oh, it's just a game. What's the big deal?" But do you think that kind of game may have changed the way you thought about life at all, or the game, or in general? Because a game like that, I mean, how has it affected you in the past 10 years? Do you ever look back?
Yeah. I think I am a big believer in it is just sport, and it's just and at the end of the day, it's just a game, and we play for fun, and that's the main thing, And the benefits you get out of it, and footy in general, you do carry them on throughout life. But that game in particular, I think it just gives you that self-belief. When you go into, and I've played another grand final since then, it just gives you that self-belief that you know that you can do it on that day. There's guys that don't do well in a grand final and that haunts them for the rest of their career. There's guys, you can take a lot of comfort in the fact that, when at the most testing time of the game, or the most testing circumstances, you prevail. And personally, I can say myself, in the most testing circumstance of that game, in that grand final, when the pressure was on the most, I was able to execute, and you take confidence out of that. So you go into another grand final and you know that you can do it. So it does give you confidence. In life, it's really hard to put the two together, but I guess it just gives you that overall sense of this theatre. It's like that anything can happen, even in life, in anything in general, anything can happen. And it's never over till it's over, whether that's in a sporting sense or whether that's in your own, life circumstances. You just keep fighting until the end, because at the end of the day, it's not over until it's over, and we've got to live. Every day is, is just as precious as the next. Every quarter in a footy game is just as important as the other. So they're the sort of comparisons you can draw, but yeah.
All right, Pete, I think that's it from me. Thanks for your time, and it was a pleasure to get some insight on that game 10 years later.
No worries, thanks.
Thank you.
This is the first time I've actually captained the side as well, so just leading into the game, it's a bit more nerve-wracking on the mindset and everything. So it'll be exciting. It's a challenge. So.
Well, probably hit when we won the game last week. That we will be coming back next week to that same ground, same time, just against a different side. Being a vice captain, I've been amongst the leaders in other years, but this will be great. First senior level grand final. The outcome or circumstance.
G'day Marc, how you going, mate?
Very good, Mickey.
Good. It's been 10 years. How does it feel for you? Is it going fast?
Quite fast. You sort of forget it's 10 years, and then you look back and realise that 10 years has gone past, and
Yeah. Now, we'll just talk about that whole year. Did you play from the start of the year? Like, how did you get involved in the club?
Well, I'd been playing juniors the whole way through, and I ended up finding out about the under-19s because my brother played 3 years before I actually started. So I was in the under-19 system probably 3 years before we actually made it to the grand final. So got to see what it was like in the losing times compared to the success that we had a bit later on.
Okay. And then coming into that under-19s year with Harry, do you remember the first couple of training runs? How were the numbers looking?
The first couple of years, training was something that you didn't really do. You'd show up and on a Saturday. And that was good enough. And if you wanted to train, you'd join in with the senior group. But eventually, as the years went on, I was a part of the under-19 system. Eventually, trainings became more on a Thursday, and then Tuesday, Thursday by the time we got to 2006.
And starting off the year 2006 with Harry, what position were you playing, or what was your role in the team?
I was named vice captain at the start of the year, and sort of at the start of the year I spoke to Harry about what he wanted out of me, and he sort of wanted, bit on the ball, bit of half back sort of, but at that stage you sort of just play where you're told where to play, and you're happy to play anywhere.
So then round 2 comes around, and Andrew Fab got injured there. When did you get the call up to become captain?
Well, when he went down, it looked pretty bad from the get-go. He grabbed his knee and it looked like it was going to be one of those more serious type injuries, and turns out it was a season-ending injury. So when I found out that it was the end of his season, being the vice captain, naturally Harry just came and pulled me aside and said, yeah, you'll be captain for the rest of the year.
I guess that makes sense. Vice captain, come on to captain. So just step us through the remaining, the whole year leading up towards the finals. Did you think that you guys had a chance to make the finals, say, 10 rounds in, or what was the feeling throughout the whole year?
Well, at the start of the year, it was sort of, the year before, I should go back, maybe a good place to start, we finished, I think, a game or 2 out, and so finals was a bit of a natural progression for us, and at the start of the year I thought finals was something that we could play, and anything above that I've never really contemplated. So we turned the halfway mark losing more games than we'd won. We then sort of sat down with Harry, and Harry said, if you can win more games in the second half of the season, and he looked at the draw and everything like that, there's every chance that you can play finals. So I think the way it turned out, we ended up playing finals, qualifying for finals with about 3 rounds to go. And then we sort of lost, I think we drew with 2 rounds to go in the last round of the season. We played a side out of the finals and actually lost that game. So we'd qualified for the finals, but going into the finals we weren't much of a chance, or no one really gave us much of a chance. And it was an interesting sort of situation to be in, because I think we knew that we could win if we put our heads to it, but we'd lost our 3 key forwards as well in the lead up to that final series in Peter Voglis, Dan Tonelli, and also Rob Illingworth. They got promoted to the seniors. But the last round of the season, the seniors needed to not lose by 12 goals, and they lost by 13. So we were fortunate enough to get those 3 back, which worked out well for us, not so well for the seniors. And that was enough to probably build up our confidence again and make us feel like a chance.
So then going into the finals, do you just want to step us through, as captain, winning the first final against Latrobe, wasn't it?
Old Xavier.
Old Xavier.
Yeah.
How did you find that? Looking at the footage, everyone was obviously happy, but as a captain, after that game, how did you feel?
It was a great win. We won by at least 8 goals, and from the start of the game we really gave them a touch up. And so in terms of the player personnel that we got back in the side, it was a really good sign for us going through the next couple of weeks. We won by about, as I said, about 8 goals, and we sort of let them back in the game during the third quarter. But in terms of the things that we were trying to do on the field, it looked like, we were starting to move in the right direction. And that carried on into the prelim final where we played Aquinas and beat them by 12 goals, I think, and played probably the best football that we played for the entire year against a very good opposition.
Now, in that footage there of the prelim, at the end of the game, you had a few words to say to the playing group. How did you feel about that? You were captain. Do you just want to step us through what you said to the group? It's on footage anyway, but I think you said something along the lines of, we're not here to just make up the numbers. I remember that. I think it was only short, but I said that we weren't there to make up the numbers, and exactly right. That's what we weren't there to do, because we were coming up against Fitzroy, and they're a team that had beaten us many times over the last 5 years by big margins, including twice the season that had just gone. And even though we were massive underdogs, we did have the momentum on our side, and we
I thought we were a good enough side, not only to show up and give them a good show, but to possibly win a grand final. So I just let the boys know that, in the week leading up to it, make sure you do everything that you can to give ourselves the best opportunity to win a grand final.
Okay. So then going into training for the week, on the Thursday night, I remember I interviewed you and Dave Voglis in there. How did you find, did you speak to Harry about who was going to be omitted or anything like that? Did you have any say, or not say, but did you know beforehand, before you read the team out, what was going to happen there?
I'd had a few conversations with Harry leading up, more I think as a sounding board as to what the players were thinking, and he let me know before the announcement was made, and it was a tough decision for anyone to have to make, being a final, let alone a grand final. So, that's something that I didn't have any say in.
Of course.
I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah,
because, it's a decision you wouldn't wish upon anybody.
So then, going into that grand final, you had a few injuries. So Cam Azer pulled out, you had Fab already out. Did you feel that, going into that grand final, that it was like, obviously you wanted to win the flag for the team, but as captain, when Cam Azer pulled out, and how did it make you feel as captain? Was there anything specific as your role as captain that you did or you said before that first quarter came out?
Well, I thought leading up to the game, it was funny. I was concerned obviously about the team in the side at the time, but I had a few words to people, family members and people that weren't actually in the team about what the game meant to me leading into it. And one thing that came up was sort of the guys in the years before that, didn't get the opportunity to play in finals, and I watched those guys play in 120 point, 150 point losses week after week. And, they stuck around and they gave our side the opportunity to play in a final series and get to a grand final. So I thought it was important to not only represent, the club and all the guys in the side to make sure that they had a, great time in a, positive, final series. But those guys that have been previously, I, wanted to make sure that all their hard work wasn't for nothing. So I think I mentioned that to the guys in the lead up, and before the game, I gave the guys a bit of a spray a bit of a rev up about what it means to not only the club but also to Harry, because like I said, all those guys stuck around, but Harry was pretty much the main reason why those guys were there and why we had a team. And I'm sure his name's been mentioned to you many times.
Just twice
during these interviews, but it was his. It's been his baby since day one, and it was pretty important to make sure we put on a good.
Of course, So then, look, that's all well and good. Going into half time, you came into the rooms and you're down by a fair amount. What was the morale like in there before Harry's speech and then after Harry's speech, and then for yourself as captain? Did you, you can be honest there, did you honestly think, well, look, we're this far down, what can happen? What were your thoughts at half time?
Yeah, well, half time was the first time I considered the thought of losing, I've got to admit. It was sort of crossed my mind, it looks like we're having a bad day and there's a chance it might, end up this way. So I was quite frustrated myself. There was, people were still, to everyone's credit, were still trying to be positive and trying to keep, everybody interested in the game. But to be honest with you, at half time, it did seem lost. Harry spoke to us at half time, and it sort of, I think, made us remember those things why we started playing for in the first place. But that third quarter we kicked a few goals, but it probably wasn't enough at that stage to bring us right back into the game. The margin was probably, I think it was 50 points, and it went out to
66
at three-quarter time. So
it's interesting you say that, Marc, because some of the other guys were saying that even though you were the other boys said that you actually outscored them in that quarter. That's what they said.
In the third quarter?
In the third quarter, yeah.
I don't think we did outscore them. I think we actually kicked 7 goals ourselves.
Okay.
But you'd have to check the numbers.
Yeah,
but they might have kicked 9 or something. But we kicked a fair few goals. But
that's still good though. From where you were at.
It was better than what was going on.
Then three-quarter time, you come in and Harry talks to you guys. So did Cam Azer as well. As captain, again, I'm going to keep going on about it. But how did you feel about that?
I was three-quarter time. was a funny thing. Like, you know, that's the one thing that I can remember quite vividly. There's probably two things I actually remember from that huddle. The first thing I remember was that there was an energy about it. Like even before Harry or Cam had spoken to us, there was still people slapping on the backside going, you know, there's, you know, you can still win the game or you can win the quarter, and trying to be positive in that regard. Whereas, you know, normally a lot of people would simply, you know, just fall over and have their heads down and concede. But no one had really conceded at that stage. And then the second thing I remember, and looking back at your footage, like I noticed that Harry said a whole lot more, but there was probably four words I remember Harry saying, and it was that, you know, you've made me proud. And he mentioned those 4 words, and I think that made a lot of people really emotional because, you know, he had put in a lot of work, and it sort of wasn't about the score at that time. It was just about that, shit, he's, you know, he's proud because of us.
It was a moment that, I mean, you know, you don't forget as a player, I'm guessing, but being there and witnessing it myself as well,
Yeah, and so, you know, the fact that he was proud at that stage of the game, and it's a credit to Harry throughout that whole 4 years that I'd been in the under-19 system, his tone never changed. It was always about trying your best, and it was always about making sure that you played till the end. And then Cam pulled us aside, and you know, I'm sure you got the footage of that, said some stuff that hit home to a lot of the guys. And I think that last quarter we went out, I don't think we were going out to win the game, to be honest with you. I thought that we were going out to make sure we didn't disgrace ourselves. And it became quite a interesting recipe because you mix that with a bit of momentum, with probably Fitzroy dropping their heads as well.
What was the key point in that last quarter for you? Like, you can narrow it down to a few things, but for you as captain, what was your position in the game? Were you on the ball?
I started in back line, but I was on the ball that whole last quarter, besides I floated up forward for a bit as well.
And then what was the key moment for you?
For me, well, the momentum was our way, but they had a shot on goal. Their best player, probably the best player in the competition, from about 25 out, straight in front, on the run, kick it, you know, 9 times out of 10, and he missed. And
hit the post,
I think he hit the post, And the second that happened, and we'd already kicked a few goals before then, I thought, well, as long as we can keep the goals coming and they're not going to kick one, looks like, we're a chance here. And then Robbie Illingworth then kicked 2 goals in a row out of the middle, and after he kicked them, I thought we're a really big chance because I knew there was still a bit of time to go. So.
And then you kicked one yourself too?
I kicked one, I think, to make it a couple of goals.
Pete Voglis kicked one to put you in,
the last quarter, and played a great last quarter.
Tonelli.
Played a real good game. Actually.
A lot of goals, you can't even keep up. Once Pete Voglis kicks that goal as captain, did you have any words to say in the middle of the ground to the players?
Yeah, well, it was more as an on-field captain at that stage to get everyone back onto the ball and not get swept up in the celebration itself. Which, to everyone's credit, that last probably 3-4 minutes over long between the goal and the siren, everyone stuck to those things that we needed to do. We got a few numbers back, from a footy standpoint, we did everything right. So my job as captain there was just to make sure that people were doing the right thing, and there was enough people in the right spots, so it worked out pretty well.
And then the siren went, and just want to step us through what happened there with yourself personally, with your teammates, and then when you found out obviously what happened with the scores and you got in the rooms, just step us through all that and just your thoughts as captain.
So the siren went, and that's still one of the most beautiful sounds I've ever heard. And I remember I was about the middle of the ground, and I ran straight for the bench just to give Harry a hug, and I managed to run past him. We ran past each other and gave each other a hug momentarily, and then, just complete chaos. Sometimes you win like I've played in a few grand finals luckily now, and sometimes it's a different feeling of, you just do a little fist pump, or sometimes you're just happy that the season's over, and this one was just pure, adrenaline and pure joy, and you're just looking for people to hug. And then we all formed at about centre-half back, and we're about to start singing the song, and it's only now that I think back to it, because, after 10 years, that's the sort of stuff that falls out of your memory, I guess. But I remember we're about to sing the song, and somebody jumped over and goes about the scores. Looks like they might not add up. And at that point, I remember that I was sitting down after we'd heard the news, and somebody mentioned that it might go to extra time, and after playing a grand final, including such a big last quarter, and also to go through those celebrations and the highs of that, to then be put down to go, you might have to play footy.
Yeah.
I was just thinking to myself, as an individual standpoint, how am I going to get up for this, next potential 5 minutes?
Did you think you'd win? Because some of the boys, I'll tell you what they said, but what did you think?
I thought we'd won because I usually keep a pretty close eye on the scores.
But did you think if you went to extra time, you would have won?
I don't think. Hard to say what Fitzroy's mindset would have been.
Well,
I think that we'd spent a lot of energy on the celebration, so I think we would have had a bit of a hard time, to be honest with you.
Well, the majority of the boys have said that if it went to extra time, then you guys probably would have lost.
Yeah.
But, who knows? Hindsight,
Yep.
In the end, you were awarded the grand final, and as captain of that premiership of Bulleen Temp, it's a pretty amazing thing, Marc.
Yeah.
Again, you can talk about the players that missed out, and for Harry, and no one will ever forget all them and Harry and the club and what happened. And just want to sum up as captain of that team. It's a pretty special thing, but sum up like the whole year and that whole experience and how it's affected your football career, I guess. Yeah.
It's something I do think about a fair bit. I spoke to Poci the other day, and I said I actually think about it. Often you sort of think about it when you're watching a football final or some sort of final comes on TV, and you feel good about yourself because you've been there and done something worth that's memorable and that people will remember. And I feel
it's not only a grand final, it's like a special one. Yeah.
But to sum it up is it's quite hard, but I think in retrospect it's more of a beautiful story than most people realise. We sort of look at just that one quarter of football as it being the whole story, but from a personal standpoint, and I know a lot of the other guys, I find it it's probably a 5-year journey that started with Harry bringing a bunch of guys together that weren't really footballers, and over a certain amount of years he got guys from the street, from basketball stadiums, from all different areas, and put them on a footy field and got them to enjoy each other's company every Saturday. And the lessons learnt in teamwork and stuff like that, I'll never forget. But probably the main thing I'll get out of the whole experience that I went through was just great lessons on never giving up. And it didn't matter that it was a grand final or what the scoreline was, but Harry made sure that everybody was on the same belief system going into that last quarter. And it was because he'd taught us for so long that you just can't really give up, no matter how bad things get. And since that grand final, certain things have happened in people's lives around the club and stuff. And I think, at times it can be a nice reminder that no matter how deep and how bad times are looking, you can always at least show up and at least fight a bit, and you can see how things go from there. So
that's it.
That's sort of what I got out of it.
Well, Coulston, thanks heaps for your time, mate. That was a great insight to get it from yourself, the captain of the team, and sorry to the other boys as well. But that was fantastic, and see you in another 10 years, hopefully. Yeah,
absolutely.
Sweet. Thanks, mate. Cheers. Okay, so can you just introduce yourself, Terry?
My name is Terry Harisiou. I was the water boy for the under-19s. Also was H's son.
Yeah, I was going to say, aren't you H's son? Gotcha. So, Tez, it's been 10 years. How old were you when you were water boy and you saw your dad coach that team?
I was 16 years old. So it's been a long time now.
Yeah. And for that actual whole year, what would you say your dad's attitude was like in terms of at home, just a different perspective, how was he at home during the year, and did he think that they'd make the finals that year?
He's always he's a very calm person, even at home. He just wanted to make sure that he got the boys prepared, and if he had any injuries, he was making sure that he was always he was making sure that those players were comfortable, that they were okay. So he was really he didn't like lose it a lot. So he was just really calm and collective, even on the field. So what you see on the field, you see off the field.
Okay. What about that grand final eve? Were you at home the night before the grand final with your dad?
I actually had an ankle reconstruction that week. So a lot of the time he was coming to training, then coming to the hospital, then obviously making sure that he was checking on the ground, then coming home. So it wasn't really home a lot of the time. It was just making sure that everyone had to...
Well, it was a big week.
Yeah, it was.
Now, on the day, Tez, what do you think the composure was of your dad, like going to the game, during the game, half-time? Did you have to speak to your dad at half-time or three-quarter time before he spoke to the other players?
No, I think coming into the game, he wanted to make sure that he was calm, because he has this idea of that the players understand his body language, understand his communication to them. So he's always calm, he was always collective. Even when the score was what it was at half-time, he just wanted to make sure that he didn't berate the players because he thought that wasn't going to do any good. Rather still making sure that they were composed, that they get their heads up and just battled out.
Good. And in that last quarter, where were you during that last quarter? Because you had the ankle reconstruction. Were you actually running water? Probably not.
Nah, I was behind Murph with a lot of smoke coming from Murph, and the ankle was up on the railing behind the old man. And
did Harry or did your dad actually did he yell out at all at any point? Like, was he vocal during that last quarter when they started kicking a few more goals?
I think he wanted to get him up and about, so he was obviously yelling every time they got a goal, trying to motivate the boys and push them on. But in saying that, even when you look like it was total chaos with everyone just excited, he was always had a really collective mentality of trying to be calm and making strategies and changes when possible. And
I think anyone, I mean, you're his son, but anyone who's been coached by H, like myself as well, everything you're saying is exactly right. It's even if you're 1 point down or 1 point up or 10 goals down, every time I remember going into the huddles, it was always very calm. So yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, because I remember the same thing, just from my personal...
well, I've been coached by him as well.
Well, there you go. It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. So the siren goes, and look, we've seen the footage, but what was your dad like when that moment went off? Because I didn't get all those moments, but what happened there? Do you remember?
I remember just everyone jumping on him.
Yeah.
But the best moment was the drive home.
Yeah.
He really, the whole day was collective and had that solid look on his face. And it was just the ride home. He got very emotional, and just wasn't just for himself, but I don't think a lot of people know he has coached in grand finals before, and he has lost them, and he always wanted to coach one for Bulleen Templestowe, and he puts a lot of effort even today into the club. And I think he just wanted, even still, it was that moment of he wanted it for all the boys, but just that moment between me and him, he just wanted a little bit for himself, and he just kind of like played it out, which was good to see.
Yeah. Look, I don't know what to ask you, because that was just that was an insight that probably no one's ever heard, Tez. But look, I ask this: how many times do you reckon a year would he chuck on the old DVD and look at the footage?
When I was 06, it was on every weekend.
Oh, gee.
We did lose a copy once, and he went searching, and I think he just only had the message
me
to the boys and you, and he got a copy straight away. So I think every time he watches, whether it be Collingwood or Western Bulldogs in the finals and they lose, he just chucks on that DVD.
That's it.
Puts a smile to his face.
Well, Tez, look, thanks for that. It's an interesting insight, and thank you so much. Cheers.
No problem.
G'day, Dom. How you going?
Good, thanks, mate. Yourself?
Good. Thanks for coming down. So, Dom, it's been 10 years since the 06 era, as like the other boys have said. How do you find looking back, your reflections on that year? What are the first thing that comes to mind?
I guess how close the team was. got to have a lot of experiences in life and things like that, and I've never felt as close to a bunch of people as I did that year. When you walk into the club, it was electric. Everybody, we were a true group. Everybody went out together, we hung out together. It was awesome. I'm yet to experience something like that again. So.
How did you find, it was your first year here playing under Harry, how did you find H as a coach in the first, say, 5 rounds?
So, I missed the first couple of rounds. I hadn't been brought down to the club yet. And the first game that I actually had, Harry was away on business or something. But the Monday that he did come back, I had broken my nose in the first game. So I looked a bit, how you going? Yeah. But yeah, look, I mean, at the start of the season with H, man, you can just tell he knows what he's doing. And for the type of person that I was back then, I was no saint. So for him to sort of get me on the straight and narrow really quickly, it just shows, I guess, his character and the effect that he has on a lot of the younger guys around the club, and especially back then too.
Okay. So then going towards, say, round 15 onwards, where were you guys on the ladder? Were you looking at playing finals? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think I know we turned the middle part of the season at 5-5, so that was round 10. So we started to sort of pick up pace a little bit. Finals were always in our sights. We knew that if we could turn that midpoint of the year at 5-5, we're in with a really solid shot at finals, and we knew that. And once we started to really pick up momentum, we had that belief that we couldn't just play finals; we could actually be a force in that league. So, I mean, look, time. I guess looking back now, it was all true what Harry said. 5-5 was the key, and we got through that, and yeah, it was onward and upward from there.
All right, sweet. So moving into the finals, what were your reflections on the first 2 finals?
I remember the first final, just the pace. Everything changed. It was a lot more contested footy. It was really hard. For myself, I had a couple of little niggles here and there, but I guess who doesn't when you're going into finals? But yeah, just the pace. Everyone was on edge. We were playing good footy too. So we actually, I'm pretty sure we smashed Zabs.
Yeah.
And we smashed Aquinas.
Yeah.
And Fitzroy were the last ones that were in our way really, and they'd beaten us by 12 goals early in the season. So I think twice actually. So we knew that was going to be pretty tricky, but yeah, it is what it is.
So going into that grand final, obviously, Harry was pretty confident on the night of Thursday night. I remember he said that you will win. What did you think at half time? I mean, I've asked this to all the players, but you were 8 goals down. What were your thoughts personally in that half time during that speech that Harry gave at half time, and then even going into the third quarter? What happened?
I guess when the siren sounded, at the end of the second quarter, you really got to stop and think, 8 goals, it's a lot, but we're still within reach. And then when sitting down with Harry, and I remember he sat down in the middle of us, and he pretty much said, we just got to chip away at their lead. And, going into the start of the third quarter, I remember everyone had that fire, and it didn't really go that well for us at the start of the quarter. They kicked another few goals, and I think we got a bit of a run on towards the end of the quarter. And I knew that at the end of the third, unfortunately, you're looking at the scoreboard and you're thinking 66 points. It doesn't happen very often, it's never happened before. So, but you just gather around your mates and, you try and win the quarter, and that's what we were playing for, to win the quarter.
And what was your role in that last quarter? Where were you playing?
I think I was playing on the wing.
Okay.
So I was on the far side.
Yeah.
And I remember walking out, and it was a pretty emotional speech that Harry gave at 3/4 time. So everyone was, we had the fire. We really wanted, our first 10 minutes were critical. And I think within the first 4 or 5 minutes, we kicked 2 or 3 goals straight away. And I just remember how hot the footy was, and how rough and contested those first few contested possessions were to get, and how hard it was.
Do you remember the opponent you were playing on at all? And could you hear anything from the Fitzroy Reds players when you got within, say, 5 goals? Do you remember hearing anything from anyone around their team, them saying anything?
I remember walking out to the wing, and my opponent said to me, he goes, well, good game, mate, at least you guys tried. And I do remember giving him the absolute biggest elbow right in the middle of his chest and told him, where to go pretty much, and we were ready to rock and roll. And of course, sometimes you say things and you don't actually really believe it yourself, but we knew that we had a chance. And I do remember, a couple of the boundary throw-ins, we were just copping it, like, haven't copped abuse like that at a game before, but it was just, I don't know, it didn't really affect any of us. I could say, it just sort of put the fire in the belly even more, and we went even harder than we ever have.
So what do you think was the key? I mean, it was a collective team effort in that last quarter, but what was the key moment in your mind when you were looking back, watching? What was something that you said, we actually have a decent chance here and we can win this?
I think there was about 4 goals in it. The ball went into the forward line, Tonelli marked it and really quickly ran back and kicked a goal. Now, I'm not sure if it was too soon before or too soon after, but I remember Fitzroy actually had the ball streaming straight through the middle, and I hate to give this guy credit, because he'll never let me forget about it, but the ball got kicked, and he was actually an emergency, came into the game because Cam Azer was injured. And Anthony Radatti just sticks his hands up, ball lands in his hands, and then he just bombed it like 70 metres. No one's ever seen him kick that far in his life. And that was actually the point where I'm like, wow, we are, Radatti stepped up, our backline solid, and all of a sudden we got this flop, like we've cut off their flow. And we're moving forward, and to me that was probably one of the key moments in that last quarter where I think not just myself but everyone was like, well, it's time to lift.
That's interesting, Dom, you mentioned that, because a lot of the times you hear the other players, the key moments are goals or marks, but that is really interesting. You mentioned it was Radatti's long bomb out of defence, and it's an interesting take on what your thought the pivotal moment was, because your defence held up really well that game.
Yeah, I mean,
in the last quarter.
Early on, I guess none of us did anything that that really helped our cause. But it was that one moment. I mean, Peter kicked the winning goal, which is also debatable because it looked like Poci kicked the goal as well.
Just keep going.
So Poci's kicked that goal, we didn't get advantage, and went back to Pete.
Oh yeah, that one.
It was as safe as houses when Pete's got it in his hands. But it was one of those moments when Radatti took that mark and kicked it forward where it was unbelievable.
So the siren went. Just step us through where you were and what you did, and the celebrations, and then when you found out what happened.
I think I was on half forward flank, and I was right next to Poci, and I only remember because the siren went and we actually just jumped on each other like as you do. And it was just like, what the hell just happened? And we're looking at the scoreboard thinking we knew we were up because we'd all worked it out, and we knew we were up by a point. But at the same time, you're like, did we just do that? And then when we're all there and we're celebrating, and they come over and tell us that we hadn't won the game, it's obviously you're devastated, but at the same time I don't think it matters anymore, because your team has showed that if you actually try your best and actually legitimately have a crack, that we were the best team going around, and really we smashed them within a quarter of football really. So
just a final question, Donna. Of that whole experience, what's the one thing playing together as a team, but what's the main thing you took out of that specific game and that specific year? I mean, obviously you're not going to forget it, but just fill us in on that, your personal reflection.
My personal reflection, it might be a little bit different to other people, but coming into that season, I was in a lot of trouble. So for me, playing football was like an escape to get away from all the other stuff that I'd been doing and all that sort of stuff. So to me, that season signifies hope and strength, and when you've got a good group of people around you that anything's possible. And I think that last quarter in that game showed that impossible really is nothing, and it's it's only impossible if you get it in your mind that it is.
That's it.
So, through that year, we tried our best. And another one of my favourite life sayings from H, and I use it every day, is your best will be good enough. And it was that year, and it has been so far. So that's what I took from the year. It might be a little bit different to everybody else's, but for me, probably that season probably saved my life in a lot of ways. It gave me lifelong friends, and yeah, that's definitely something that the grandkids will hear about one day, that's for sure.
That's great. Look, Dom, thanks a lot for coming down to speak to us, mate. It was fantastic getting your insight, and I hope to see you back down at the Taj one day.
Oh, maybe one day, mate, as an old man, but yeah.
All right, catch you, man. Thanks.
Mate, cheers.
Yeah, it's all right, Tonelli.
All right, fellas, thanks for coming down. Who we got here?
Marc, Carfi.
Marc, how you going? Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, Daniel Rametta.
And
Daniel Tonelli.
thanks for coming down, boys. I knew who you all were. I just had to think. So it's been 10 years, and we've spoken to a lot of your other teammates. Have you guys been thinking about that game or that year much in the past 10 years, Tonelli?
Oh, it always comes up. Whenever we see each other, it always comes up. It's just that special day. I've been playing footy for about 10 years, and I've never played a game like it or a season like it. Just the bond we had and the event of each game and that culminating in that grand final and that epic last quarter. It's something you never forget.
Now, Rametta, in terms of that year, like, what did you play from the start of the year?
I did, yeah, played from the start. I think it was the second year I was in the under-19s.
Okay.
Meant a bit, to do it with Harry and a few of the boys. First half of the year was trying to convince this kid to come down.
Yeah, when did you come down there, Carfi?
Enjoyed it. I was talking him up.
I came down and I trained the Thursday before round one, I think it was, because obviously I was really good mates with Daniel Rametta, Marc Daniel Tonelli, and I knew Anthony Radatti and Poci and a few other boys.
So you all kind of knew each other, yeah.
So when I got down here on Thursday, there was a few extra guys that I did know, and then I was still umming and ahhing because I just finished playing junior tennis, and I sort of thought, maybe I'll go back and play football because I hadn't played for a few years. And I think after training, Harry just gave me the paper and he's like, sign this here, and I'm like, okay, no worries.
Sign that and look what happened.
I think you called him 4 weeks in a row trying to get him down.
He did call me a few weeks prior, but I was playing tennis on Tuesday night, so I couldn't train then. But ended up coming down the Thursday before and lucky enough to get a game. And
so you didn't have tennis on Thursday either? Just Tuesday. Yeah, you were a tennis player, that's right. Yeah,
Tuesdays and Saturdays.
Sweet.
I told him, I said, don't worry about the pre-season, just do what I do, round one.
Well, that's
half decent, you're straight inside.
So during the year, let's just say about round 10, round 15, do you want to just tell me, like, in the middle of the year, one of you, like, was there a moment in the middle of the year that you thought there was something definitely gelling there? Tonners, do you want to?
I suppose the first half of the season we were up and down, some good wins and then some really bad losses. I remember a big loss at Xavier.
Yeah.
It was a cold, rainy day and we got fun by more than 10 goals.
Okay.
And I think after that we realised that if we really wanted to achieve something, we really had to start working harder. So we had to get more players to training, and I think the big event that we had was some dinner at Brunswick Hotel, I think it was. We went for a swim and a training session. And had a bit of a bonding session.
I mustn't have played that game if we got smashed by 10 goals or something.
Well,
you can tell he hasn't played in 10 years.
Well, that's what they say.
Still talks rubbish.
So, Rametta, so when did you guys have a feeling you'd be making the finals, did you think, during the year?
Well, we started, I think that night was the key moment. It was just the way everyone sort of gelled together. And since that, I remember, when was it? I think it was my 150th in the first game. Mum came with Dad and Matt, and everyone was watching. I started that big melee in the last quarter. Typical, in front of the family and everyone. Like, I turned around, the whole team was there. Like, the way the boys jumped in for each other and that, and we just, everyone, like, we didn't even have to have the best skills, just the way we gelled and just seeing all the boys around now, just felt great. It's just like, we're gonna have a big year.
Now, Marc, going into the finals, right? What can you tell us about the first final?
The first final I actually didn't play.
That's why I asked you. I remember, Harry told me.
So
were you watching the game? Did you?
Yeah, so
I just want to get your perspective about, like, watching the boys and why were you injured for that period?
So the last quarter of the last round, I I think I went for a marking contest, and the guy sort of bumped me, I sort of off balance and twisted my ankle pretty badly.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think I was on crutches that day, but yeah, it was the day I remember I woke up and I sort of thought, oh geez, I'm gonna miss out on the finals, and I knew it was an elimination final, and I hadn't played too many finals.
Yeah.
Growing up playing it as a junior and missing out, especially with the bond that the team had, was pretty hard. But in saying that, there was still a couple of other guys that missed out, who weren't injured, who just because of purely numbers. But I remember it was a beautiful day, and luckily enough, the boys played really, really well. I think.
How many did you kick, Rametta?
You probably say kick 10.
I think he was actually the best on ground.
I think he was. Which playing forward, defence, everything. Yeah.
I think I was. Yeah. Well, I had a good ruckman. I just said, Tom. I said, you're the tallest guy here. I just tapped it to him. He was just doing it all day. I said, yeah, this is good.
And Toners, did you just bring him his water or?
Pretty much. Yeah.
No, I remember you played well that game. Yeah.
Played up forward, kicked a few, so it was good. Actually, at the same time, Carfi was injured. My brother Damien hurt his shoulder, so he was out for towards the end of the season and the first few finals. So it was touch and go for him, and he actually got up for the grand final.
Yep.
And unluckily for him, in the first 5 minutes of the grand final, he hurt his other shoulder. He went through a contest and he busted his other shoulder, and he's off to hospital during the first quarter, and he's in the worst pain of his life because he broke his collarbone.
Jeez.
So one of the greatest days for me ended up being one of the worst days for him because he was in so much pain.
So moving on to the big day of the grand final, obviously you went through training, the selections, the squads were selected. Now I've spoken to a few of the players that missed out, and even Cam, who, you know, what he went through there. Did you guys happen to speak to Cam and at all before the grand final at all?
Yeah, during the week I know he was. I remember him being sort of touch and go, and his knee was really, really sore. He was trying his hardest, but I think in the end, he sort of must have made the right call. I mean, because he was probably our best player the whole year.
Yeah.
So.
And you lost Fab too early on.
Fab, and I think Sherbakov and Bain were playing seniors as well. So you had those guys into the side. You know, we were a pretty strong side really overall, but. Yeah, it was just unfortunate. Yeah, I think Cam would have won our best affairs.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
So going into that grand final, I remember H told me in the old rooms that you'll win on Sunday, and I was like, I hope so. Now, going into let's just talk about half time. Come down, 8 goals down, and whichever one of you guys want to talk about what happened in the rooms. I remember there's footage of you, Carfi, footage of all of you, but the look on your face, I remember in that was. You looked a bit, I don't know, obviously upset. You wouldn't be happy with being 8 goals down, but do you want to just walk us through that at halftime, all three of you, just quickly about what you guys felt at halftime?
Yeah, so I'll go first, I suppose at halftime it was probably more just shell-shocked because we were going into the game. I know we'd lost to Fitzroy both times throughout the year by 10 goals, but when we did play them, we were a completely different side come towards the end of the year. So we're just a bit shell-shocked, a bit upset, disappointed at ourselves as a group, because I think our preparation was spot on, everything was right. It's just sometimes in football, the bounce of the ball, it was really swirly, the wind. It was just a really flat, emotional ride, wasn't it? That during that half time, because we're all looking at each other in the eyes, and you just feel the disappointment.
But then, what did you think, Rametta, Toners? Like when Harry sat down there and he gave you that speech, what were you thinking? Did you, you could be honest, what were you thinking? 8 goals, I don't think we got this, or did you think, you know what? What did you think?
I think we always had that belief, just because I think we made the finals at 4th or 3rd, so we just win every game, and it wasn't, we lost to these sides during the year, but we came out and played a crazy game the first week, then played. Was it Aquinas?
Aquinas.
In the one before, and we were playing form, and we thought, they've beaten us twice, but the way we're playing, we're just going to give it a real crack, and I think we had a crack at them. It was just, inaccuracy. I was inaccurate, and the team just missed kicks, and we were just sitting there, and I don't know, I suppose when Harry talks, you've just got that belief. You can just see it in his eyes and the way he talks, and it's almost like, we're sort of fortunate enough to get a spot, given the top players that are missing out, we're going down, and it's like,
you know, we've got to do this for not the ones playing, but the ones that aren't. And we just had to keep pushing.
Now, Tonners, you were playing, what position were you, centre forward or?
I started centre forward, and I remember I wasn't getting much of the kick because the ball wasn't coming down as easy as it was previous to that, and the team was struggling. So I think H moved me back centre back.
Yep.
And I wasn't happy with that. I like playing back line.
Yeah.
But even that, my opponent got the ball and he kicked the goal. I mean, just one of those days is just like, oh, this is not our day. And I think the same feeling went at half time and everybody felt we tried our best, but it's just not our day.
Yeah.
Why isn't it working? And we just needed something to happen.
And then the third quarter, they scored a few more goals. You guys picked a few back too, but coming into three-quarter time, I remember this vividly. People telling me, turn off the camera, you're wasting your time. I'm like, oh, just keep going. Now, three-quarter time you came in and 11 goals down, and obviously Harry's speech and all that. What do you remember, just one of you if you want, what do you remember like specifically about that speech? Was there anything that triggered in your heads that like, you know what, just fill me in on that?
I think for us to win that game, everything had to go perfectly. So, as in terms of Harry's speech had to be on point, right? Which it was. He got an emotion out of us. I mean, I remember I had tears in my eyes, looking around, everyone had tears in their eyes. But one thing that I do remember, because we were all angry. So going out after Harry's speech, I thought to myself, we're going to win this quarter by 5 or 6 goals, and we're going to really give it to them, I thought. That last quarter, whether we win or lose, we're going to play a really good last quarter. But one thing that sticks out in mind is we started to break, and Cam Azer brought everyone back in again. And obviously he missed the game through his knee or whatever, and he brought everyone back in, and he was screaming. He's like, "Win the game! We've got to win the game!" You know. And that sort of got us from thinking just to win the quarter to bloody hell. And the wind picked up as well.
Yeah.
Like, I had a mate of mine who came and watched the game, and he's like, when he was walking out after three-quarter time huddle, he goes, "Geez, the wind's picked up a bit here." So that's sort of...
What about you two boys, like at three-quarter time? Do you remember where you were, who was standing next to you, or...?
Well, I remember it was back in the huddle as I normally am, and it's probably just one of those speeches you hear that, end of the season, you give it your all, sort of, nothing's going to happen. You listen up, but like Carfi said, Harry was able to get that emotion from you, and then Cam just topped it off at the end. And you leave the huddle saying, well, if we're not going to win, at least we're going to give it a red hot crack and finish the season with a bit of pride. So obviously, I know myself, I didn't go out there thinking we're going to win this quarter and we're going to win the game. I just thought, let's finish it off and see what we can do.
Now...
I remember that, both those speeches, that's probably the biggest thing I remember. That was that changing point, to see, the tears and emotion from Harry and the way Cam grabbed us all in and just like, we're fucking do it for him,
It was almost that last pep up, wasn't it? Before we...
Now, about that last quarter, we could talk about it forever, but between you three, how many goals did you guys snag each?
13 or something.
Rametta, I thought he could kick all of them,
I contributed a few points in addition to that.
I kicked 2 goals. I don't know how many points, but
I think I kicked 1 goal, 4 points, and 2 on the full. Yeah, pretty inaccurate. But I set up all these guys.
But the 2 on the full, you were trying to pass it, weren't you?
Exactly. I miskicked it.
Carf, were you playing on the wing? What were you playing that?
I think I was full forward because of my ankle.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I think I kicked 4 for the day and 2 in the last quarter, I think.
Now,
I think I passed you 3 of them.
We'll keep this one quick, but just like in terms of, say, after the first 5 goals, what was the key point in that last quarter? Just quickly for all 3 of you. So, Tonners, what was like the key moment for you? And you can always say, when I took that mark and kicked that goal. But no, what was the key point where you thought, you know what, we have actually got a chance here of winning this?
I think it comes down to those Rob Illingworth goals, especially the one from the centre. The tap from Tommy Waters, and Robbie just runs on and kicks it about 70 metres. And you're just thinking, how's this possible? We've kicked like 6 goals in a row here. And it just kept going. And then I took a mark and kicked a goal in the goal square. And that got us within 5 points, I think. So I thought, you know.
Well, yeah, a lot of people have said Robbie's goal. Yeah, Rametta, what do you reckon?
That 70-metre goal was. I just remember him kicking that, and we're all getting around him, and all of a sudden the crowd was getting amongst it.
Yeah.
Like every time it was down, we had all the boys behind us.
Yeah.
And, like everyone, I remember looking at our faces, and we were all just like, "Fuck, guys! Like we can actually do this." And they all like started panicking, and then we had the footy in these guys' hands. Marc Coulston at safe hand.
That's right. Yeah. Forgot how many goals. Marc, yeah, he got one too.
Yeah, probably the Rob Illingworth 70-metre goal's probably the obvious one.
Anything else you can think of? Like, apart from Robbie's goal, Tonner's goal, and Pete Voglis putting you in front, was there anything like, if one of you want to answer this, anything else that was like, probably maybe people wouldn't think about? Because we've had a few answers from other of your teammates where it's like very interesting. Some of the key moments for them were in the last quarter. Can you guys think of anything else that's a bit?
I remember that Radatti Marc in the back line.
Yeah,
that was the one crack that.
That's interesting. Yeah, Dom Morabito said the same thing. Yeah.
And that I remember just stood up and
I think every time we went down the half back line, the back line repelled Steve Miller.
Yeah.
Johnny Reptile.
Steve Miller.
It just kept repelling. I think Dave Voglis had a great game in the middle. He kept getting it out, and Dom Morabito as well. In and under players, just kept kicking it forward. And obviously playing the forward line, that's all you want is the balls to keep coming in there, so you get a chance to kick goals. So even though we get the recognition for kicking the goals, it's the hard work up the field that got us in that position.
Now, did any of you happen to like any of the Fitzroy Reds players have any words within themselves, like with each other at all when you were getting within 2-3 goals? Could you hear anything from any of their players at all? Like, were they actually starting to stress out at all?
They were pretty quiet. From what I remember, I mean, it was 10 years ago now, but they were pretty quiet. I remember during the second quarter, one of the backmen was saying to me, we're smashing you guys.
Yeah.
You guys only beat Aquinas by, I think, I can't remember, 72 points or whatever it was. 80 points the week before because we softened them up, blah, blah, blah.
All right.
But they were pretty quiet in the last quarter.
Okay.
There's a sense of panic, maybe.
Yeah.
I know that a few kicks from full back went out in full.
Yeah.
Maybe because of the crowd behind the goals.
They
started panicking a bit. So obviously you would when you're so far ahead in there.
Well, they were talking. They were all celebrating at the start of the third quarter, and then they just.
Well, I was told by Murph that I think their seniors coach went up to the 19s coach and said, "Well done, I've got to go," or something to that effect. Now, I'm not sure if that actually happened, but if it did, well, there you go. Never celebrate early, just like, Collingwood.
The spectators that left, and we ring them up and they couldn't believe it,
So, the Pete Voglis put you in front, and then there was only about 3-4 minutes left. The ball was down Fitzroy's end and then on the wing. Were any of you near the ball at that point?
Yep.
Oh, Rametta, I remember that,
Yep. I think someone won it long, and I reckon I ran about 70 minutes to get this football. I'm just like, take this ball, no one's around, someone's coming, just gave me everything to get there. Then I reckon I was wrecked, and it's gone straight through my hands.
Yeah.
And I've gone to pick it up, and someone was coming, and I've gone to run past him, and then slipped over. And I'm like, fuck, don't stuff this up now. So I gathered the ball again, and then started running, and I saw Peter Voglis in the middle, and I'm like, yes. So as I kicked it, I just felt a sense of relief then, and then the siren went, and I just remember that moment.
Now step us through, so the siren goes, you all run in. Tonners, just real quickly, like who was next to you when the siren went?
I just remember running and I was nearly hyperventilating. I was that excited and happy, I was trying to rip my top off and I couldn't get it out of my head, and I was just trying to run as fast as I can, get in the middle, and everybody's just coming from everywhere. It's one of the greatest feelings you ever have.
And then Rametta, you want to step us through, once you're all celebrating, when did you start hearing anything about, hang on, the scores maybe?
Yeah, I remember, again, I think halfway through kick, running to the middle and everyone running in, and I just felt like we won it. I know we had that score thing, but I think we were all just so proud of ourselves.
Did you have any negative feelings though, Rametta, Carfi? When they said stop, and then that VAFA guy came in and said, look, don't worry about the score, you've had a great year. Was it a bit not condescending, but did you feel a bit annoyed in the rooms? I mean, you would be, you just won
we wanted that
one of the most amazing games, and then it's someone telling you don't worry about the game. Were you really annoyed?
I think looking back at it, it sort of ruined the celebrations to an extent.
Yeah.
Because although we were 98% confident that we had won, it's still not down in the records book. So they had to go and work out exactly what happened that last quarter. But it probably took away from it a little bit. But in saying that, we're still really, really proud of the effort, whether we'd won by a point or lost by a point, to come back from that sort of margin. I'd still be looking back at that year as probably one of my favourite years of football.
Okay.
Whether we had have lost by a point, if that was the case,
So you're back in the rooms. What was like some of the main things you remember from that post grand final celebration, singing the song, everything like that? But how did it feel? Rametta, how did it feel?
It felt like a draw, I think. You know that feeling you get after a draw, like you don't know if it's happy or sad, because you feel like, oh yeah, we won, but then they're trying to take it away from you, so you like don't know what to feel. So you're trying to feel, yes, we won, but
it always
kind of like, I don't know.
I mean, we were rating the result, but it was almost like we were just, I don't know, celebrating our year, the way that sort of we fought and that together. It was like, the results there, but boys, we've done this. Like, I don't know, I thought we still had a belief that we did it. We were still relatively confident. It was, we didn't get the official decision, but I think we knew deep down. Like, if you look at our team and then the way they just dropped at the siren, I think everyone pretty much knew. Yeah. There was that bit of doubt, but we were celebrating like it was one of the best days of,
It was great. It was great.
That was,
So just to finalise everything in a couple of sentences, how would you sum up? I mean, it's impossible for anyone who's wasn't playing in that game, but a spectator's got a different view on the game. I've got a different view on the game because obviously, I was filming it and looking at the footage over the years and, spectating it, coaching it, editing, watching, but you guys playing in it, not just that game, but that whole year. I just want to sum up your feelings about that game and then how that influenced your lives.
Well, to sum up the season, I thought we came together as a bunch of school kids, really, and who from different areas and didn't really know each other. And towards the middle of the season, we started bonding together and really gelling and started enjoying each other's company. And we started realising we can actually have a great season here. And we started training harder, and eventually it ended up winning a flag.
So it's just about team bonding for you?
I think team bonding was the greatest feeling of that season, and everybody I see who was part of that year always talks about that year.
Rametta, what about you, mate?
Yeah, it's a story I share with a lot of people. It's honestly one of the best years of football I've had. It's that bonding, it's that togetherness and that, and I catch up with these boys pretty regularly, but even some of the guys tonight I haven't seen for a while, and it's like we both played in that game. We've got that instant we've done something together, and it just I draw on it, and I know people that I've shown the videos to have drawn it in different aspects of their life, just saying stick it out together and that, and you can achieve anything pretty much. Yeah, and it's a big moment. It's something I always look back and enjoy. To get to enjoy it with all my best mates and that. It's been pretty good.
Marc?
I suppose the other day, probably a couple of months ago, a guy started filling in for our indoor soccer team, and he was saying that he used to play at Fitzroy Reds, and I think me and Daniel sort of looked at each other and going, he's probably about our age.
Oh yeah.
And did you play under 19s in the grand final? Or he goes, yeah, we lost one by a point, and then me and him just started laughing, and he's like, why is he laughing? Going, we played it for Bulleen Templestowe. And he goes, get stuffed. He goes, I still think about that every day.
Murph is, a few others have mentioned that some of the players stopped playing after that year, but you can imagine from their perspective what they were feeling. But you know what? Never celebrate early, and bull ants never die. Blue and gold, strong and bold. Or strong and bold in blue and gold, I guess. But look, thanks for coming down, you guys. It's good to have all the teammates come down and have a bit of a chat, and Harry is going to appreciate it. But look, it's good, and hopefully, we'll see you in another 10 years. All right, catch up.
Thanks.
Grand final!
This is unbelievable! They've won it! The Bullets have won it! Unbelievable.
As far as I know, as far as I care, and as far as anybody else gives a shit, we're winners. You can't get a better effort than that. Whatever the result comes out to be, you are winners in everybody's eyes. As far as I'm concerned, this is our last game as an entire group together. So let's get into the huddle and let's sing it like a real